thank you, everybody. Welcome to episode 3, series 4 of The State of the Onion. And today, the topic, I haven't looked recently, but whatever it is changed to, The State of the Onion, do religions give you better personal goals? I was playing around with the title somewhat. For those of you that are fundamental, I was going to give you, do religions give you better or give you superior personal goals? Right, so
Wow.
you can interpret it either way. I don't mind, better, superior, whichever you like. Um, and then you can take off religion to be whatever your preferred flavor is. Right, it's just like a good restaurant. You can have, if you want to put pineapple on your pizza, you can put pineapple on your pizza. If you don't want to put pineapple on your pizza, you don't have to. You don't have to. You could just have, I don't know, something like pilchards. I don't know, anchovies, as they would say in that part of the world. Anyway, there it is. So the topic is, do religions give you better personal goals? And of course, religion's famous, I would say, for doing several things. Firstly, claiming that they give you personal purpose and meaning. That's quite a one that religions often say that they give you. It's not just self-serving; it's serving a higher power. That's what they would say. Purpose serving a higher power. Obviously, they give you the idea of moral structure. There are laws which you must follow and dogmas which are irrevocably unchanging and therefore objective. And this, of course, gives you a grounding for all the things that you do. Although, you only have to look at the state of the clergy to find out whether that's true or not. Obviously, one of the big things they do, I feel, is community. You get a big community. I say big, bigger than just you and the guy next door going out for a beer on Friday. You get a bigger community which can police you almost to kind of coerce you into acting in a particular way, which is synthetic to the religion, whichever you're believing in. So if you're a Buddhist, it's going to be being very peaceful and quiet. And if you're an evangelical, or I don't know, it could be being very loud and playing a band on Sundays. Obviously, there's the other side of it, which is the Buddhist side, the transcendent side. It gives you this inner feeling of calmness, and some that take it to extreme, even superiority. And so those are various things that religious people sometimes claim they receive from being a religious person, being a theist that believes in some divine spirit or all-powerful God. And of course, this, they say, benefits their lives in many different ways, because they have benefits which us mere mortals of the flesh may not have. We don't have an afterlife to kind of bend all things towards. And that can be quite, for them, it seems to be an issue for them. They find us scary in some sense. We're Satanists, some of them call us, because we're going to hell, and all sorts of bad things are going to happen to us after our life. And that, therefore, means that our lives are bad, or at best meaningless, because there's nothing. We believe nothing happens after death. Therefore, there is no meaning. And if there's no meaning, then what are we doing living even? Why bother? So you can see some of the pitfalls that atheists fall into, or at least people, I say atheists, I mean people without religion. That's another straw man which we could get into. And so that's the open sort of part of that introduction, and I'm trying to put forward some of the benefits of religion. And I'm joined by a big panel here. I have Fabio, Mark
Hello.
Reed, Ella, Scott, Mike, of course, from Speed of Sound. Go to his channel and sub. By the way, the links are all down in the description, including yours, Mark. I don't know. I just had a feeling. It was like divine inspiration. Captive Dave, of course, you were in there. Headless Chicken, as always, thank you very much. And Serb, thank you too for joining us as well. And so I'm going to throw it open first to Fabio. Fabio, is there anything you wish to say on the topic? Oh, if there's any theists in chat, by the way, I did invite a few today, and hopefully they will arrive. And also, I want to say to hello to everybody in chat. Spooky, nerdy. The link is pinned. Please come in if you want. I'd very much enjoy your company. Lyrics, we'd definitely love to hear what you've got to say. Hello, Sandy. Thank you for coming by. And anybody else that I've missed? No, that's it. Oh, some guy called Mike. Don't know who that is. Anyway, over to you guys. Fabio.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just talk in general. First of all, I will not fall for the trap of the better part, right? Because I think it's a can of worm which eventually will be opened, but will be opened later on. I would say that in general, okay, religion can give you goals that you would not aspire or get without it for one simple reason, I would say. And again, I'm really talking, keeping in mind the general state of the population, in the world, not specifically in the US or in Europe or stuff like that. But I think that one of the things you said in your introduction, Sam, was the fact that that religion and church give a sense of community to people. That is true, and that by itself, I would say it's a good thing, right? The other thing is that for a lot of the general population, usually churches and religion, they are the only place where they at least it is presented to them some kind of moral questions, and etc. Of course every religion will have its own angle and whatever, but um, for the I mean, I'm thinking about somebody living in the mountains, or the peasants, or the people which doesn't really think too much about something which is not trying to feed themselves or their kids, or or even having a job which is mildly satisfying. I would say that those structures, church and religion, they give you at least, they put the question forward, right? uh, and again, keep in mind, I'm talking generally because I'm sure you will find specifics which contradict what I just said. Usually that is a good thing. The moment you pose a question that you usually do not put yourself into, in a situation or stuff like that, at least makes you think. So, without falling for the trap of the better part, I would say that, yeah, generally religion can give you goals and can give you, a perspective on at least morality that you usually would not think about.
Thank you
And
very
that's it.
much. Anybody else? Mark, would you like to comment
Yeah,
on
I'd
this
like
one?
to. Yeah, I think that for me, like so when we're talking about goals, I think it's important to distinguish between personal goals and other goals. Like personal goals for me are ones that they're not pressured on you by any kind of societal expectation or any kind of sort of obligation kind of thing. Because I may have a goal to have a career or something, but is that a personal goal? Is that one that I've decided for myself? Or is there sort of an obligation forced upon me? So to me, I guess sort of personal goals are one where you don't have anybody expecting you to do it. So things like learning a language, I might want to do that just for myself. Whereas if I'm doing it because maybe I work as a translator, I've got to get better at a language. That wouldn't be a personal goal; it would be a professional one. So it depends on how you're breaking this stuff down. But I would say that sort of under my definition of a personal goal, one that it's not sort of forced upon you, or you're not trying to conform to some kind of expectation. I would say that religion really replaces personal goals with the goals of the institution of whatever church or religion you're with. So instead of choosing freely that, hey, I'm going to, and hey, don't get me wrong, maybe some people do choose personally with no obligation, hey, I want to do this stuff for the church. What I find is that, a lot of it is something that they feel they have to do because of an obligation put to them by the religion growing up. So they're sort of indoctrinated into this, well, you're expected to do this charity work, do that, have all of these goals for the church. So I guess as far as community is concerned, yeah, there's sort of a vibrant community, but I would also take the bad with the good that, a lot of communities, they can end up being cult-like. We know religion's exactly the same. So I would sort of take the bad with the good there, but you're probably right. I would say that does give you a sense of community, but whether that's a community that you feel obliged to follow because they are the true Christians or true Muslims or whatever that is, or whether that is something you're deciding for yourself because you freely like and enjoy the company of the people around you. I think that's up for debate. So I'd like to know what everyone else considers to be a personal as opposed to a non-personal goal there.
Okay, thank you very much. Mike, can we just go to you? Because I think this is something I want to talk about. If you're there, Mike.
Yeah, hunting for my mute button. Anyway, yeah, this is really interesting. Now, first of all, yeah, the thing about personal versus community goals, I hadn't thought of that, but like morality comes from whatever culture you're in. It comes a little bit from the kind of thing you are. It comes from your culture. It comes from your community. So that is sufficient for morals. You don't need some sort of structured religion outside of that. But the thing about there's a difference between Eastern and Western religion. Western religion is going to concentrate on this. I am special. I have to please the Lord, and then I will last forever. That sort of thing. Whereas Eastern religion has this whole thing about making all of that ego stuff go away. So in a sense, Eastern religion would be more about or less about purpose overall and more about getting rid of your ego. Because if you get rid of your ego, then the things you do aren't necessarily selfishly for yourself. They can be for everybody else, right? But now there's you can do that without any religion, and I suggest that's the way to go. The problem I have with Christianity, it is too egotistic, right? It's all about me, and I'm going to live forever, and I have to please the Lord and what the Lord thinks of me. And I just don't see where that provides any good purpose for your life. And then as far as purpose for your life, I don't think we should get overly hung up on purpose. We should get more hung up on what we're doing right now, right here today, that sort of thing, and less about purpose. I mean, everybody needs career goals and all that stuff when you're young, but for the most part, we think too much about the future and about the plans we're going to have. Man makes a plan, God laughs. That's kind of a good. Anyway,
yeah.
Does that?
I was actually thinking of a great Van Halen song called Right Now. I'll check that out at some point. Yeah. Van Halen, great band.
Right here, right now. What are you doing?
Never
right here,
heard
right
of
now?
them.
Yeah.
Oh, never.
Yeah, there you go.
Man.
That is the lyric. Yeah.
I'm being facetious.
That's okay. I don't mind.
Anyway.
Yeah. So, Serb.
Oh, okay.
Over to you, mate. I'm just guessing. I'm just like saying people's names. Anybody who's got anything they want to say, just jump in.
I got plenty.
I'm trying, but
well, I think religion is a taxon of culture. More specifically, it is a complex of beliefs and behaviors that develop a moderate to severe taboo that then becomes so severe that there's an authority enforcing it. right? Either through shaming or imprisonment or death or ostracization, like all that sorts of things. Like, for example, the only reason why Stoicism and Cynicism isn't a religion is because they never had enforcement. They are, everything else about them is religious. No one calls them a religion because no one killed for them. Right. I say that trying to point out that it is just culture. People get good things from culture. They get goals from culture. It's just religion's just an extreme version of it. It can be good and bad. For the average person, I think it's probably better than worse because people don't live examined lives.
Yeah.
And that's kind of it.
That's interesting. Yeah. I think quite a few people have died for being Stoics. Needless to say, the early Stoics.
No one's killing to enforce Stoicism.
That's true. Yeah. No, that is true. That is true.
Well, I don't think the evaluation of whether something is a religion, of whether someone killed for it or not. I don't.
No, it needs an authoritative enforcement. It doesn't have to be death, but
in order to be, I think something not just that it's required to be a religion, but it's required to be a successful religion. I think that was the point. Yeah,
that's fair.
And I mean, I would say no. I wouldn't consider a religion until there's some type of enforcement. There's plenty of religions in history and in current day that's just simply enforced by ostracization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. No one had to die. We just told you to leave.
Yeah. Sure. What about something like Jainism? I mean, you could hardly say that that's enforced by material things, right?
Yeah, it's not enforced by the law, but you can be ostracized from Jainism if you.
Well, if you start eating meat, for instance, yeah, for sure. Huh. You couldn't really be a Jainist. So what you're really the taboo. So in that sense, you're really just pointing to the dogma and saying, look, I don't like the dogma of these institutions.
Yeah, but that would make any kind of social belief structure, like you can get ostracized from veganism for eating meat as well. It doesn't make it a religion.
Oh, well, no, I think if you can literally be ostracized from your community and everyone you know, yeah, I think it is religion at that point.
Well, that would make my family a religion. Like that's. I mean, come on.
Funny speaking, one of the earliest religions we have is ancestor and family worship.
Yeah, that's true.
We just don't think about it nowadays.
Well, sure, but like you'd have to include countries in that as well.
Yeah, right. Isn't it weird how nationalism's so close to religion?
It's close to, but it's not the same.
No, we don't consider it because it's political only.
Okay, I don't want to get too hung up on the minutiae of what Serb's saying, right? Maybe he's got some general point in there, right? I think we can all agree that Christianity didn't take off until it had an enforcement system, right? The Roman Empire, okay? And that is an enforcement not necessarily as we think of it by physical force, but it's by coercion, if you like, isn't it? Through wanting to be, you couldn't be in the Roman Empire if you were, I suppose you could. I suppose it became a way that if you wanted to get on in the Roman Empire, you had to be a Christian, right? Eventually,
still like that here.
Yeah, and in America, yeah, for sure.
My grandfather converted to Catholicism because he was a politician, and that was to be a politician here in Central Missouri, he had to be a Catholic.
Yeah. So the point stands in that sense, at least, anyway. Yeah. So I just want to bring in. I want to get everybody a chance to have a word. Get around everybody. Dave or Scott, either of you wanted to jump in on something? The other. Yeah,
I would disagree with the superior personal goals. I think if you have personal goals, you can use religion or not use religion to achieve your goals. I don't think it's a matter of anything superior. If you want to be, let's just generically say, if you want to climb a mountain, you can climb a mountain whether you're religious or not, and you can have that goal. But I don't think it's superior to anybody that doesn't want to climb a mountain because it's very risky.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think your biggest problem is going from the personal to the group think, which I think others have mentioned, that the problem arises not from the individual experience, but from when the group is telling you what your experience should be, what your goals should be, and then, like Mark said, you're delving into the cultish aspect of it, of being controlled, and I don't think that's in any way personal anymore. And hello, Mark, by the way, good to see you.
Hi, Dave. Good to see you too, mate.
Okay. Yeah. Headless or Scott, did you want to say anything? You don't have to.
Well, I was thinking that I can't remember the quote that we hear it all the time about that. That there's nothing that religion can explain or provide that there isn't a non-religious, non-theistic explanation or solution for. I think it was Christopher Hitchens, and he said it a lot better than me. Maybe somebody out there can find the goal or the quote. But I have kind of a take on personal goals. Are we talking about personal goals that are good for the person, or considered helpful or wholesome or positive because they're good for the person, or because they're just considered good by the religion? I mean, let's say you make a personal goal. I'm going to pray more. Well, what's that going to do for you? I mean, why do you need? Why is that a superior goal? If it is, I'm going to pray more. Well, you might be praying more to build your character, to lower your blood pressure, to be more at peace, to feel more connected to the greater world. That can be accomplished without religion through meditation. And there's all forms of meditation, some that look almost just like prayer. In fact, some people who are atheists continue to pray. They just don't pray to a God. So I don't see how religion really provides any superior personal goals. The one thing that they have done that apparently does seem to have a measurable effect on people's longevity is they provide community. I know Robert Sapolsky mentions this a lot in his podcasts and some of his lectures, is that if you want to extend your life, be a part of a religion. But the only problem for that is, across entire populations, and you're looking for certain contributing factors. The fact is, for a long time, religion was the only infrastructure for providing a sense of community and for possibly dealing with intellectual and personal, and I'm going to call it spiritual issues, even though to me spiritual is just almost the same as psychological without all the psychological jargon. For thousands of years, religion was the infrastructure for community, and we really don't have such a infrastructure across, through all the different social classes, because there are certain communities that form around activities, but there's usually a pretty good cost to get into. Like, I was once, you wouldn't believe it to look at me now, but I was once into, running and training for marathons and half marathons and 10Ks and things like that. So I joined a running group. And one thing you have to have is time. One thing you have to have is the money to buy all the shoes, pay for all the entry fees and things like that. And that's just not something a person in a impoverished area, from an impoverished background. We didn't see a lot of poor people running in those groups. And to be part of that community, you had to essentially be middle class. With churches, with religions, you don't necessarily have to be middle class to find a religious community. Sure, there are things that richer churches can do and middle class churches can do that poor churches can't, but the infrastructure has, so cut through and grew into the into each society across social classes, that that it did do a fantastic job of providing community. However, you community through other means. It's just that we don't have a secular infrastructure for providing community for as many people as the church did. So, does religion give you superior goals? I don't think so. Most goals, if you take out the ones that are purely religious for religious reasons, I just don't think that they provide goals that are that much different. They've just had a lot more time to be in more communities.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. There's quite a lot that could be said on that, but Ella, did you want to come in and say something? No?
Yeah. Well, what I had like thought about and written down before even the stream started actually does kind of go along with what like Fabio and Mark were saying about like making the personal goals into like more of a collective one and stuff as well. And that I don't think like if we're gonna say, oh, does it give you better goals? Like, no, I don't think that. I think that is the collective opinion of this group. But I do think that religion, the concept of religion, not any one religion in particular, might give some people a better framework for communicating the reasoning behind their moral judgments. And I think that might get other people to like collectively agree to move that from like personal goal into like the more collective goal. Does that make it bad? I don't know. That's but that was my thoughts on it.
Yeah, and I would tend to agree with that. Very much like in some sense, I should say, it's to do with willpower here, because when people say, why didn't you steal? Right. Well, some people are going to say, well, I wanted to, I really wanted X, Y, Z, but because I'm a Christian, right, it's against my principles. Right. Now, what they're doing in that sense is still making the decisions themselves, as we would, as a naturalist would say, but they're deferring the responsibility to something which they perceive to be a higher power, in inverted commas. Higher power, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
I might, as an atheist, I might want to steal something.
Sure.
And
even though the higher power, in this sense, is still themselves, it's just their subconscious, right? Saying, "Oh, this feeling I have is bad, so you shouldn't do it," right? And it's that kind of deference which can give people that are of a weaker frame of mind, shall we say, if when the temptation becomes too much, they have a way out. Very much like the placebo effect, or very much like AA meeting. Go ahead, Fabio.
No, I mean, I understand your point, right? But I don't think that at the end of the day, it really makes too much of a difference if the guy, says, you shouldn't steal because he believes in a higher power or something else. I mean, when you get to the crux of the issue, I don't think that is such a big difference compared to the benefit that behavior generates for the community as a whole. And by community, I'm not talking about only the religious community, the community where he lives in. And so I just make a quick example because I'm afraid the conversation is too much US centric here, and I really urge you guys, to broaden up a little bit, the point of view. In Italy, after say the 50s, 60s, stuff like that. Usually, if you went to a small village, there were two big poles of attraction, especially in some regions like Emilia, Tuscany, stuff like that. So you had the church, right? And you also had another building, which was usually called the House of the People. And that was usually run, by either communists or socialists, the left part of the political spectrum. The funny thing is that even if they were on the total opposite side of the political spectrum. You know, the reasons were at the complete opposite. Most of the times, the behavior was the same. So, like for example, you know, somebody which went to church, they didn't steal because they were afraid of God, blah 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 blah, blah, right? The guy which went to the house of people, you know, say, well, you shouldn't steal because it's contrary to the communist, you know, doctrine and stuff like that. At the end of the day, the behavior is the same. It's just different justifications, and we all agree that living in a community where people do not steal, it's better for whatever reason. It's better than living in a community where people just steal willy nilly, and you know you have issues. So I mean, I don't know. The results of the fact, and then I quit. Sorry, because I'm rambling. I understand I'm rambling. Somebody said at the beginning, I think, something about, you know, the moral guidelines and blah blah blah. You know, they're influenced by the culture, the society we live in, and that's true. That is, I agree with that. I'm a big fan of that theory. But if that's true, we should not forget that, uh, depending on where we live and whatever, you know, but generally speaking, religion, and specifically the Christian religion, because I don't want to focus too much on the Christian religion, is actually part of the culture we live in, for better or worse, you know, for the bad things that it did and the good things that it did. So there must be some mix up in this, if we accept that the end result is the general sense of morality of the population in a certain, you know, region of the world.
I would add, you have to add the bad with the good as well, because
Yeah,
yeah.
I did. But listen, you know, the bad and the good, you can tell it, you know, for everything. Even
Right, right.
in you know, in post-revolutionary France, I mean, there was some good thing coming from the Enlightenment, but you know, there was some bad things because they were killing people. I mean, there was the age of terror, you know, where everybody
Yeah.
literally lose their head. So the good and the bad, I don't see that as a big problem.
Well, that doesn't necessarily mean that the thing itself is good. Um, for instance, like we have to accept that colonialism had a huge impact and is still part of our culture.
Yes.
Colonialism being the idea that the Western or Caucasian areas have some kind of right to be superior to the rest of the world, kind of thing. That still is a sort of fixed in our culture, although I would argue that that is not a good thing. And don't get me wrong, I don't think religion is on the same level
Yes.
as colonialization. Don't get me wrong, but I think
Mhm.
that I think that the harms that religion has done and still continues to do outweighs any sort of tangential good that it did. That would have, you know, because we don't have counterfactuals, right? We don't have anything to say, hey, if we didn't have religion and people just had, say, a philosophy instead of a
Yeah.
religion, would it
No, but
be a better world? Because we don't have access to that world. But
I
I think that
sorry.
no, go ahead,
So
go
sorry,
ahead.
no, there is a little bit of lag. I don't want to interrupt you. I'm sorry. No, carry on.
No, all good, mate. No,
Really.
all good.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree with you, and I wasn't trying to put, you know, to put things on a scale, right? You know, to say, oh yeah, but I'm more or less the same. You know, I agree. I mean, there was some, you know, ideologies, and by ideology, I put in religion too into that. So I'm making a big, you know, pot, right? There's some
Mm.
ideologies that are objectively worse than the others. That, I mean, that I agree. What I was trying to say is that if we are the the fruit of all this big cauldron, you know, of mixed ideologies which preceded us, and you know, they're still part of our society, even the bad things, I'm not saying they're good, but you know, they are part of that, you know, network, of that, you know, fiber, just because of the fact, you know, for example, that okay, I mean, colonialism, I was shit. So as a general sense, we say no, colonialism is bad, but the fact that, I don't know if I'm, you know, getting through what I'm trying to say, right? I mean, everything is part of
Yeah.
what our moral perception is.
I think so, Fab. We kind of got to work with what we've got, and
Yeah.
the what we've sort of developed along the way. And I totally agree with that. I think that my main problem in sort of to link it back into the topic is the way that maybe it is more the extreme end of religion, but it subsumes people's personal goals and makes them sort of they're beholden to what the
Yeah.
church wants. Like some
Yeah.
person may want to, like when we talk about sort of goals and especially personal goals, I kind of think about self-actualization. If you're unfamiliar with that, and you might know, Fab, it's just for the audience, it means being sort of the best version of yourself you
Mhm.
can be, the
Yeah.
most developed version you can be. And I see a lot of the problems of religion being a person wants to develop this thing about themselves, but instead of doing that, they're instead doing something for the church. Like instead of going and learning a language because you want to be the best person you can be, instead it is, well, I'm going to do this because I feel like the Lord wants me to, kind of thing. And that I see as a big problem, because if there is something that would make you the best version of yourself we could have on this planet, which would be good for the society and everybody in general, especially yourself, instead it is well, no, that's sinful, or I can't approve of that. And I'm going to point to something specific, right? You've got somebody
Right.
who is gay, basically,
Mhm.
and they may really subsume that and go, no, I won't, that's a sin, and I won't, think about that, and really do themselves some, real psychic damage, because their religion says that they shouldn't have that personal goal of being happy with the person that they want to be.
Right. I mean, no, I agree with you. I will just try to nitpick a little bit, right? Not to
Sure.
detract,
No,
not
pick
to
away,
detract
pick
from,
away.
not to detract from what you said.
Yeah.
But I think that we got to be super extra careful in distinguishing religion from the church. Again, it might be super nitpicking, but so I'll give you a personal example, right? Just to clear the air.
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
I have a past as a Catholic. I mean, I live in Italy, right? I mean, what the fuck were you expecting, right? And I remember when I think it was 16 or 17. I was having a conversation with some guys. There was a priest involved. I mean, we were talking about all, in general. And there was this priest at a certain moment. He said something which I still carry with me in a way. And he said something on the line, what Jesus Christ really is what you should aspire to be as a man, as a complete man. I mean, if you take away all the church infrastructure, right? I mean, and you just read the story of Jesus in the most secular way possible, that is really not a bad suggestion, to carry on. I mean, of course, I mean, if I read the Bible now, I have huge pinches of salt, right? But in general, the story of Jesus, especially in things like the Sermon on the Mountain, the most famous passages, saying that, okay, this is what you should aspire to be as a man, it's not really a bad message per se. And you can mix and match with a lot of secular, and point of views if you want. So this is what I was trying to say. We really have to be. I mean, at least I want to be super careful between distinguishing religion and the church, because to me, I mean, there is a difference, in my opinion.
Well, it depends on which part you're talking about. Sermon on the Mountain stuff. Okay, yeah, sort of.
Yeah.
Part of me thinks that is, you know, the blessed are peacemakers and stuff, it might be a little naive, but I get you. It could, you know,
Yeah.
at least being kind and generous, and there's nothing wrong with that, sure. But there's other stuff like he who looks upon a woman with lust in the heart as sin
Oh, fuck
committed
yeah.
adultery kind
Oh.
of stuff. That's kind of terrible.
I am super with you. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't.
Yeah.
I don't think that just sort of saying be like Jesus, you know, who whipped people in the temple because he was angry at the money. You know, I don't think that's necessarily the best idea. But you know, I get the sentiment that try to be the best person like this. But what I do notice is that, you know, even within a religion, even within Catholicism, for instance, as your example, there's almost as many Jesuses as there are, you know, people in it. They all have their different views of, you know, you get these people that think that Jesus was stern and punished people, and you get these people that think that Jesus would never raise his hand, and like there's so many different versions of this. It's sort of hard to say we'll be like this person when everybody's got a different idea of what that is.
No, I agree with you. That's why, you know, I said also, if you are in a position like, so okay, let me put it this way: I think that if you are in a position where you're not religious person, right? I think that there are some messages that you can pick and choose from various religions, you know, including Eastern religions, that you can easily mix with even a more secular approach and point of view and sense of morality. That's what I was just saying. And this is where, you know, again, I was saying, yeah, I mean, I tend to make a stir distinction between, you know, the religion and whatever fucking entity is managing that religion at the time in that place. That's all I said.
Well,
Yeah, but-
I think that that the problem is that you've got sort of, you know, I totally get, as a personal goal, you want to be a kind and, you know, like Jesus kind of thing. But I'm wondering how much of that is personal goal and how much it is the religion telling you to be, you know, because if it is, you know, the priest saying, hey, be like Jesus, that's how you get to heaven, that's how you know, when you're sitting there going, well, I'm going to be this way because I know it's good for me, it's good for my society, I'm going to have a more fulfilled life, that would be a personal goal. But if it's the priest saying, hey, you've got to be like Jesus because that's the way to heaven, that's not a personal goal anymore, right? That is
totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, but that would be in my example. And again, you know, I don't want to give the impression that I'm trying to, you know, to slip away from the critique, because I know it's there. But this would be exactly what I said, you know, before. You know, okay, that would be in the example of the entity which is managing the religion right now. You know what I mean? So yeah,
Okay.
but I think we both agree. We're just, you know, jabbing at each other. But I think that we fundamentally, in a certain way, we can come to an agreement.
Yeah, pretty much. I just
Yeah.
Sorry, Simos, you were trying to say something, and I just
No,
spoke over you.
I don't know what I was going to say there. I had a thing, and then I thought, no. Oh well, other than to say, to bring Serb in on the idea that Fabio was kind of started with down that line, which was, you know, look, there's this kind of secular, that's certainly to do with somewhere like Padua or something like that. There's this secular dichotomy in the community between the priest and, should we say, the political leaders, or should we say the not aristocracy? I mean, that might be too strong a word, right? But the you know, the community elders, let's put it that way, right? So that's somewhat politics against religion, I think.
Oh boy, I mean, I don't know
Would
if
you
you
say
want to
that or
open.
not?
No, I mean, I don't know if you really want to open that kind of war. You know?
Well, I'm asking Serb if he wants to. I'm asking Serb if he wants to open it. To be
Well,
fair.
Oh, carry on. I mean, be my guest, guys.
So, kind of. I mean, I'm guessing that ties back a little bit to what I said before too. Am I correct?
I'm hoping, yeah.
Yeah. I think your state is essentially a religion that you're forced to be a member of, that you might not practice, right? I don't really think there's a difference.
Well,
We just call it not religion because it's
I feel
specifically
like
political.
religion's being used really widely here. I certainly wouldn't agree.
Okay, but just give me a more narrow one that includes all the religions. That's the issue.
Well,
Well, I think it would.
worship of a higher power, right? Of some supernatural higher power.
There's a ton of religions that don't have that.
Like what?
Jainism, for example, doesn't specifically does.
Isn't Jainism an offshoot of Buddhism? Don't they
Yeah.
worship life and the sort of?
Nirvana.
I'm pretty sure they do. Yes.
I'm pretty sure that's a supernatural
Nirvana's a goal.
state.
They don't worship Nirvana.
Yeah, but it's a state, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
maybe you're right. Worship is too strong a word to use there, but it's certainly some supernatural kind of state, right?
Sure, it's just not a
I
being.
think-
It's not a god, not a deity.
I think worship
Well,
isn't too
he
strong a
didn't
state.
say a being, but they believe that everything has a soul, so they're definitely believing in. Well, I mean, they're definitely sort of assigning a
Well-
worship of some sort.
So, and I think I don't really want to get into the game of
Right.
saying, right, because there's one exception, therefore all the rest of it therefore doesn't count, right? There may be some exceptions, but they just prove the rule in the case of most religions. By far, in a way, most religions do have a being, an agent, which is worshipped as a higher power.
Well, I would just say, if you want to include everything that we consider a religion commonly, the definition is going to be broad enough
No,
that it's going to include things
okay,
like
go ahead.
things like politics or philosophy in some instances.
What do people in politics worship?
I don't think worship's necessary.
Okay,
Okay,
look,
but
can I just get this distinction just sort of nailed a little bit here, right? Because in some sense, right, and I'm using the word sense here now because I don't want to be strict to the definitions, right, particularly, but there is this connection, and it's a very strong connection with Christianity, at least with Catholicism. As Elle said earlier, her grandfather became a Catholic in order to get on in politics, and that is the sense in the United States, right? They still say you're not going to become president unless you're somebody who's religious, a theist, or at least a Christian, right? And it's the same with Islam. Islam is famous for having a doctrine which is not just worshipping a higher power, but also controlling your behavior in life and in some sense politics as well, right? So these bigger Abrahamic religions also fall in this way. I would argue that problems in the Middle East right now are to do with Zionism having a controlling stake in the Jewish parliament, right? And when I say controlling, not that it's a majority, but it just decides because of the nature of their politics. It just decides who's in power at any one time, whether it's the right or the left. So people have to pander to them, just the same as in Germany, right? It's the same kind of system. So I think politics have a lot to do with this, right? Whether you call it a religion or not is a kind of side issue, right, sir? So if you can go from that point of view, right, of just saying, well, look, these religions need and rely on, in order to hold their position in society, they rely on politics. And therefore, politics is an integral part of the religions, rather than trying to just claim that religious, politics itself is a religion. Right?
Oh, well,
I think that religion has a huge impact on politics, sure.
Yeah. So go ahead, sir. Does your point still? Can you still make your point with that or not?
Yeah. I think the only reason why we don't call broader political systems religion is just because we don't want to. I think it's just it. I think it fits. I think it fits right in. Any definition you could give that covers everything that you would consider a religion,
right,
will include political systems.
Well, I think any political system can include religions. I would put it the other way around. But
we have a ton of examples of that.
Sure.
That's one of the main enforcement mechanisms through history. Is taking control of the political system.
I agree. Or at least when you say enforcement, again, this is slightly pejorative language, but certainly in terms of increasing the size and therefore the scope and reach of the religions, and therefore making them kind of de rigueur for citizens of a particular political system, i.e. a country, in order to follow them.
I don't mean enforcement in a pejorative sense. I mean enforcement as in there is a force behind enforcing taboos.
Of course, there's a social force at least.
Yeah, I
this
mean
is
at minimum, you're going to have a social force.
right. So I don't think we're going to disagree with that. As say, I think maybe Fabio will disagree with it. Oh no, you're muted, Fabio.
Yes. No, I think that, I mean, I don't see that, as a really interesting point. I mean, and to be fair, in my opinion, if you try to avoid the term religion from something which has to do with something divine, it becomes a pointless term. You might just use, bottle. It's the same. I think this is what defines religion. And as far as as religion and politics goes, I think that historically, uh, politics have exploited religion ever since the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire, didn't become the sacred Roman Empire because they wanted to impose religion. It became so because the majority of the people were religious. So to say, okay, I'm gonna ride this tide because if not, those people are gonna kill me. So yeah, of course, it's gonna be the sacred Roman Empire. So yeah, I mean this is what I would say. I mean, even the example that Alan said before, about his father, he has to become Catholic because apparently where he lives, if you're not Catholic, you're not going to be elected. That's a really practical example of politics, exploiting religion, or at least exploiting the religious idea that the majority of the people in that particular area has. So
Yeah, the only issue I have with that is divinity is a term that's it's never really defined, and
well,
it's
yeah.
subjective. Right? There's a bunch of examples of
Oh,
states being considered divine, at least in part.
Sure.
Right, and
I mean,
that's why I said these
well,
political systems are religions that you might not be practicing.
no.
no,
Listen, I mean, I
Yeah,
get, yeah, I get,
I don't
yeah, I
agree
get,
with that.
yeah.
well, in the case of theocracy, maybe, and there aren't too many of those, but in history past, of course, rulers, because they were divine, and certainly in the Roman Empire, ruled, as a tour de force or a force majeure, on the basis that they were divine.
Oh wait, I think that's one of the main thrusts of fascism is that
Holy shit.
the state is worshipped and venerated like it's divine.
I mean, like it's divine, right? I mean, without question, I think it would be a better way of putting it. I don't think that is necessarily a definition of divine, though.
No, all within the state. That would include religious
Yeah.
notions.
Well, I mean,
No,
yeah,
but
it
that,
doesn't
but
make-
yeah,
it doesn't
listen,
make
but
it state,
again,
but-
here's the issue. I mean, if you take away the term divine and just say, oh, divine depends on what you mean. Okay, I mean, we can't have a proper conversation because I'm just starting to say mouse and bottle and whatever. Because I mean, with mouse, I mean people, and with bottle, I mean idiots. But I mean, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, words have a bloody meaning, right? So I understand that people some have some interpretation of the term, but we got to get to the gist of it, and you cannot say that divine, for whatever interpretation you might have, has nothing to do with either something sacred for the person or supernatural or whatever, because if not, I mean, I mean, I don't know how we can have a bloody conversation.
Well, no, I'm fine with that sacred. But the thing is, I don't think if you don't think it's divine, that doesn't make it not a religion, right? That just means that's not one you're practicing.
If
No,
you
no,
don't think,
no, stop, Fabio.
Nobody's saying
Yeah.
that.
We're just
Yeah.
gonna just put this out there. All right. Yeah, if you want to use those words, sir, okay, I understand. But what is the point behind what you're saying without using those words, right? Okay, so some people think the state is everything. Yes, That's true.
Oh, well, no, I
Some
was
people
just
are dogmatic. We're all dogmatic to the laws, right? I say we're all. No, we're not. We're mostly dogmatic to the laws, right? And they're controlled by the state. So that's true as well. Okay. But what does that mean? And well, like what does that have to do with personal goals in the sense that we know most people know that the law isn't transcendent? Right.
not much. It's just a side point to me pointing out what religion
Yeah.
was, and then denoting from that why the goals could be good or bad.
Which is what?
Well, like I said,
Because-
it depends on what it is you're practicing, right? But
Sure,
I
of course
think,
it does. Yeah.
like I said, I think for the average person, they don't live a very well examined life, so religion is probably better for them than not.
Yeah, I mean, I would tend to agree, on the basis of whatever 50% of people are below average in education, and 50% of beliefs below average in intelligence. So, yeah, sure. For some people, it's better just to read what they've got to do, and then go and do it, rather than sit there and work out the hows, the whys, where it
But
came
under your
from.
definition, that religion is better for them could be anything from, a cult like Scientology to a cycling club.
Or a can of Coke.
Well, if the cycling club has developed a cluster of beliefs and behaviors that have moderate to severe taboo enforcement, then I would say, yeah, it's acting like a religion.
Right. Okay. But
Then
I don't want to
why
get hung
have
up
the
on the word.
term religion?
I don't
It's
want to get hung
ridiculous.
up on the word. That's just a.
But
that's
it's
just
not
a
that
trap.
it's not that cycling clubs are religions. It's that if
Right.
there is a cycling club that has this type of enforcement and for some reason has moderate to severe taboos in a cluster,
Yeah.
then I would say, well, that particular one seems to be a religion.
Okay, but who cares whether you call it a religion or
Wow.
not?
Okay.
So hang on. So who cares whether you call it a religion, right? You can say, oh, yeah, I call that a religion, and that's fine. You're entitled to call it whatever you want. All right. For me, a cycling club can't be a religion because there's no supernatural being which is worshipped, right? That's how it is. So it's certainly
I would
not.
just say it needs to have veneration of some higher power. That's all.
Right, but when you say higher power, that's
the
quite
cycling
vague
wind.
then.
There you go.
Yeah.
They venerate the wind.
The
I think
divine
you'll
wind that
find
hits you
they
when you
don't.
cycle.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it is the hot air that is blowing out of their asses, quite frankly. But
Yeah.
I just
Okay.
I really want to distinguish between a group that you can say, hey, they follow this religiously as a metaphor, or
Yeah,
some
that's
kind
what
of,
it's being used as, though, isn't it?
yeah, and an actual organized religion, where you have dogma and you're venerating something that is above and beyond and can hand down some instructions for moral obligation. I think that they're two totally different things.
Absolutely. And look,
I just let me interject something here, please.
please
I
go
just
ahead.
asked about Jainism and asked Copilot, because sometimes when I want to test little ideas, I'll go to like Copilot or ChatGPT for what it's worth. I said, without a God, what makes Jainism a religion? Because Jainism doesn't have a creator God to worship. And here's the response, and I don't think it's leading me down the path of error. Jainism is a religion not because it posits a creator God, but because it offers a comprehensive spiritual worldview, ethical system, and this speaks to the dogma that Mark is speaking to, a path to liberation. What must I do to have the best possible disposition in the world at the end of my life? I guess it's kind of an answer that all religions seek. I could be wrong there, but it seems like it is. That fulfills the core functions of religion. So I think it's one of those deals like when a doctor's diagnosing something, it needs to have, there's like 5 things it could be, and you need to have at least 3, to be diagnosed this way. Well, to be a religion, maybe you need 4 out of these 5.
Okay.
But that dogma path to liberation is, if it's not a questionable path, if it's not based on science or reason, then of course it's based on dogma, something that's taught on the authority of some teacher rather than justified by science or real things, shall we say?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah, I agree with
I
that.
just-
Glad you brought that up, Scott, because there's a Western bias to what has been said about there having to be a god or a divinity or belief in some weird spiritual thing. That isn't true of all religions. There's about 2 billion people on the planet that call themselves religious that don't believe in deities, or shouldn't anyway. They're hard to say where they take their religion, but anyway, Buddhism, no deity. Taoism, no deity. Jainism, no deity. And I think Confucianism is the other one. And it's not necessary, but there is a,
Shinto.
like,
Don't forget Shinto.
yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
like I
it-
said,
it-
I don't want to start using the exceptions to prove that everything
Well,
is
that
a,
has
is a
Shintoism
religion.
has
Buddhism is a
ancestor
pretty
worship.
I
goddamn
don't-
big
I don't mind.
exception.
I don't mind. Right, the idea that these are polysemous words, right? Religion can be used to describe your local football club. 100%, I understand
Sure.
that.
Or
But
science.
in the context that we're trying to use it, I'm trying to use it, right? And for this particular discussion, and in order to relate it to personal goals, personal goals. Is that what the topic is? Yeah, personal
Yes.
goals. I'm trying to use the definition of some transcendent, supernatural, higher power.
Okay, then call
That's
it a
how I'm-
Western religion, please. Don't
Okay,
just call it
for-
religion.
Okay, 100%, right? Although,
Okay.
I agree with you that there are exceptions, both to SERB in terms
Big
of,
ones.
well,
Billions.
big.
Billions.
Not literally the majority.
Well, I think there are higher powers in Hinduism. I think there are higher powers in all of the three Abrahamic religions. I think there are higher powers in some versions, and probably the majority of versions of Buddhism. So
Yeah.
Wait a minute. No, there aren't. No,
I
no,
also-
no.
the majority of them, I think there are.
No.
Some people worship the
universe-
Buddha, but he's not like a savior or anything.
No, absolutely.
Like
I'm
a
not saying he
historical
is.
person. Yeah.
I'm
Who
not
didn't
saying he
rise
is.
from the dead.
No, but he did miracles in his life, according to some Buddhists.
I don't think so. I've never heard of that.
Well, I
Oh
think
yeah,
he-
there are
yeah.
gods in Buddhism. I mean, they're not generally worshipped, but there are gods. I mean, there is a divine component even in Buddhism, and that is what
I
we're
don't-
trying to point out. It's not the deity which is important.
As a
It's the
Buddhist, I have no
divine
idea
God.
what you're talking about. No
Don't-
idea what
don't
you're talking
Buddhist-
about.
No, the Buddhism has devas as well,
Yeah.
like people that have
Yeah.
reached enlightenment and they're basically venerated. That's why I use the word venerate instead of worship.
Yeah, venerate's way better. I would agree with venerate.
And I also
Yeah.
think that Nirvana is, a lot of Buddhists think of Nirvana as a place that you can achieve and go to when you've achieved this enlightenment. Right now, whether that's a spiritual, I think it's a spiritual enlightenment, and whether that's some abstract place or whether that they think it's a real place is questionable. Maybe in history they thought it was real. Maybe these days they think it's abstract. I don't know, or Platonic in that sense. But nonetheless, this is the kind of idea that I'm trying to get to with the word religion here. And I'm sorry, Mike, you're quite correct.
Western.
That
Western religion. Yeah.
I've just given you examples of Eastern religions which also have this, right?
Yeah, but they're different. There's
They are
not
different.
like
I agree.
yeah,
I
there's
agree
a-
they're different.
their deities are either like saints, okay, historical figures that they worship or whatever, or want to
Right.
worship,
Yeah.
or there's something really weird like the natural machinery of the cosmos, which has
Okay.
nothing to do with a Western deity with
Agreed.
a mind.
Agreed.
Western
They are
deities
different.
believe, yeah.
Agreed.
That's
They're
fine,
different.
but it still
I've-
comes
I've
under
had-
worship,
I've-
venerating
yeah.
a higher.
I've heard Buddhists, and certainly
wouldn't do
Buddhist
that.
monks that I've spoken to, have said that there is a supernatural force called love that pervades the universe, and that we can partake in if we are on the right spiritual plane.
I think that's Star
Yeah.
Wars.
No,
There you go.
these are Buddhist monks that I've been talking to.
Okay.
So I literally think that Buddhism does have the idea of divinity, and you can have a relationship with it. And they do think that it's also external in terms of that there is some ultimate goal by which you can achieve, and that's a
Yeah,
personal goal.
some Buddhists aren't smart enough to know what they're talking about. So
Okay,
Okay.
fair enough. And I
There you
agree
go.
with you.
The
I
no
also-
true Buddhist
Right.
fallacy.
I would also agree with you
Oh,
that
really?
there are some versions of Buddhism which are atheistic. Okay, so I'm not denying that, but I do think that that is probably a minority version, like sect within Buddhism as a whole.
No, that's like the original Buddhism.
I don't know. I think they were more pantheistic than that.
so it's all about popularity then, Simos. Okay.
Well, I think when you talk about a Dalai Lama, that's about popularity for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Either way, I say it highly depends on the religion. So
Yes.
much so that you can't just say, yeah, it's better to have religion.
No, I'm not saying it's better to have religion. What I'm saying, or trying to imply here, right, is that people who are religious say, right, that they have personal goals which are better than secular people because they have these extra points which they can rely on, the transcendence of spirit, right? For instance, in the case of Buddhism, I get that strongly from Buddhist monks that they feel superior. They never claim to be superior ever, as far as I've ever come across. But it certainly feels to me like they look down on people who have still struggle with internal desires, right? Because that's part of their belief system, right? So that's a personal goal they have, is to liberate themselves from personal desire. So this is, and it's different from Western religion, 100%, Mike. But I understand that works. Now, we got into this little section here by me trying to explain about what I think about politics and religion, right? And I don't think politics is a religion as such, right? But obviously, in the colloquial sense of the word, I would certainly agree that it is. So that's the distinction that I'm trying to get to. And if I can just focus us back to the point about needing some transcendent ideal in order to locate your personal goals with. So, Mike, would you like to just talk about it for a little while, because I think you have something enlightening to say on the subject.
Nope.
No. Okay.
Nope.
I thought you'd found some solace in and some freedom from.
Oh yeah, yeah, but it's about not being purpose oriented, right? Not constantly something in the future, or something I have to do, or something I have to save my soul, or whatever.
Mhm.
It's the difference between thinking of a purpose and just chopping wood, just doing, right?
Yeah.
Actually doing the stuff. You spend
That's
about
very
you should
Taoist.
spend 1% of your life thinking and planning, and 99% of your life doing and breathing. Okay, that's
Just to throw my
kind of-
usual wrench in the works, that's still a goal, right? If you're basically saying, "Hey, I want to live
Oh,
in
yeah,
the present
yeah.
and not live in the future," that's still a goal. So
Well, yeah.
goals don't have to be necessarily plans or things for the future
Right.
kind of thing. They can be very, very blanket statements about how you want to live.
Yeah. Like in Buddhism, you got like the Eightfold Path, where you got these 8 things that you're achieving, or that you just accept automatically, right? But you don't sit around and think about, oh, I need to do this all the time or whatever. You just live
Sure.
that way, right?
But
let it
why
shape
do you have this goal? Like, why have you, Mike, chosen to have this goal of the Eightfold Path?
Because I believe in it.
What do you mean you believe in it?
I believe it's overall, it is the oh god, if you're walking in a valley, it's a good idea to walk the path in the middle instead of try to walk up on the hill. It's like that, right? So I believe it's the easiest path for my life. So I become convinced of that. Okay, and then you have these kind of like overriding concerns that pop up and say, oh, you're aberrating, you're getting up on the hill, you're getting away from the path, right? And you kind of like correct yourself. But for the most part, you're not thinking clearly about some goal.
So your goal would be to make life as easy as you can.
Yeah, the easy way, but that's not the same as easy as you can, right? I mean,
No, I get you. Yeah. So
right.
of course there'll be other things like, to be morally right and that sort of thing. But you're basically going, be present in the moment and take the easiest route to what you want to achieve without making it too complicated for yourself. I get you. That's totally fine. I get you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's obviously a personal goal, but the goal isn't to do the Eightfold Path. The goal is to live a fulfilled life or have an ease of living through, the way you live your life.
Right. And if you're learning to ride a bike, you'll sit there and say, oh, I got to press my foot down on the pedal. I got to lift the other one up. I got to steer it. I got to do this. I got to do that. But after you've learned how to ride the bike, you don't think about any of that stuff anymore. You're just riding a bike.
Well, that's intuition and instinct, sure.
But is it superior though at getting you to where you're going, right? You can walk, you can drive, you can take a plane, so yeah, the superior aspect of it, I don't want to dismiss, because that seems to be the big difference. Because like I said before, and anybody can do any of these things. But does it make it superior because you do it a different way than I do or they do? I don't think so, because I think you achieved your goals, and I don't think any of them are superior.
Yeah, I think superior just misses the point, because then you're comparing yourself with somebody else, and the whole point is not to do that.
And I may have different goals. I may want to do the best I can for the well-being of humanity, right? So I may have different goals than you. So it may not be that your religion would get me to where I want to go, because our goals will be different. So I don't know. But we have to say that even before the religion gets you better, superior goals, what I see, especially between my own sort of worldview, which is secular humanism, and say a religion, is that if your goal, like, what's a better goal? Living life trying to, self-actualize, be the best human you can be, and to help humanity, or to, bring about the kingdom of God. And that's all well and good if a God exists, but if it doesn't, the religion's not giving you a superior goal there. The religion's giving you a goal which is unattainable.
Right.
Good point, Mark. And that's the whole problem with the Abrahamics, is the unattainable, right? You can never be good enough. Whereas, like Mike's saying, with some of the Eastern religions, you're good enough.
Right.
You're good enough. Just let it go.
You're a work in progress. Yeah. No, I get you.
Yeah. Okay. Welcome to We Are the Storm.
Just thank you very much.
Hey, James.
Hi, James. Good to see you.
Neither, guys.
Have you listened? Have you been listening, or do you want?
I only caught the last minute or two.
Oh, okay. No worries. Again, we're just probably going over the same ground a few times, so don't feel too bad if you want to just jump in with something. And we've already spoken.
Yeah, go ahead, James. You can address the title if you want to.
Well, where we leave off at, we're talking about religious incentivized goals.
Yeah, is it better if you have a religious goal versus a non-religious goal if you still achieve your goals?
Well, I mean, I don't think it matters as much what's incentivizing people as what their incentive is. Like if we have a secular person and a religious person who have goals that are going to hurt people, then I'm equally against both. And if we have secular and religious persons with goals that are conducive to human well-being, right, that are completely ethical, then I'm equally supportive of both.
You know, when you talk about why we have that goal and what you're trying to do, that reminds me of the second of the Eightfold Path in Buddhism, which is right intention. And the word right doesn't mean correct or the only true thing. It means wise, skillful, or in harmony, where you cultivate motives of renunciation, goodwill, and harmlessness.
Right.
Just throwing that in there. See, this is the thing. Will a religion that you're in, in the context of which you're developing personal goals, will they let you look to other religions for the smart things that are in their religion that you might could apply to your life? How rigid is the creation and the execution of these goals? Does it have to end with praise Jesus every time you make a goal? Or is it I want to develop a deeper connection to the land and to the nature? Okay, well, how do I do that? Well, let's see what some of these other religions say about that. Well, will somebody, put up their palms of their hands and go, "Whoa, buddy, you're going crazy there. Only look in the Bible, or only look at, at what the priest tells you," or something like that. So, how rigid a context you're in, I think, is really important, because in setting and meeting goals, what if you reach a point where you realize, I'm not living for me, I'm living for this goal, and I don't quite like it anymore? Do you keep trying to fulfill that goal, or do you say, no, this goal isn't for me anymore? I've grown, I've changed, my priorities are different. I'm going to kind of reissue myself a new set of goals. And will you get what kind of pushback might you get from the religion in which you are developing these goals for your life?
Dave?
And that happens a lot. People change their goals, right? Especially, with the climbing the mountain. Well, if you've already climbed the mountain, then you're going to look for something else to challenge yourself with.
Yeah, one thing that religions and people, spouses and boyfriends and girlfriends and significant others, one thing that they're all resistant to, including religions, is change. If you change as a person, if you've grown and changed, and the other people in your life haven't grown with you, that they push back against that. So. And so, people in general and religions in specific are, when you say, "Oh, I'm a different person now, I need to pursue different goals," you can definitely get some real pushback from that.
Absolutely, I agree. This is part of the problem with most forms of organized religion, is that they want your priorities about your attention, your focus, your passion, your personal resources towards goals that are specific to religious interests, and sometimes in conflict to human well-being interests. And so, if you have a different set of priorities, they call it idolatry, because they really got to push the demonization of wrong think and wrong priority.
Yeah, and that's where I sort of would say, the problem is that they subsume people's goals, and I completely agree with. I'd know that voice anywhere. That's James. That's James. I didn't recognize you at first. Yeah, it subsumes people's goals to make their goals what the religion wants instead of what the person wants, and that's kind of what I'm trying to get at. That a personal goal, it shouldn't be around the religion. It can't be, because a personal goal, like a religion, why would you have a personal goal that's given to you by a religion? That doesn't make any sense.
Well, I mean, sense is maybe not the best word to use there, I feel, Mark, because
Okay, maybe.
for instance, quite often I've heard, this is anecdotal. I've heard that when people settle down, get married, and have kids, quite often they'll find their way back to the church. This is what I've been told by some church people, right? And of course, they do this in order to give their kids a community, a ready-made community, which they think they can trust. Ironically, considering all of the scandals, a community which they think they can trust and also has other kids in it. Because let's face it, most secular communities don't necessarily have kids hanging around or of the welcome. Quite often they're sports clubs, like Serb was saying, or secular communities revolve around, I don't know, drinking for pubs, for instance, or concerts or things like this. So quite often it's something that they can go to, which is ready-made, that they can feel that their children have a better chance to engage with A, other children, and B, have a limiting moral code, which means they don't have to keep looking over children. I'm reminded that Ricky Gervais once said the reason he was a Christian was because his mum taught him to be a Christian, and the reason his mum taught him to be a Christian was because when she went out going off drinking and cavorting around, she thought that there'd be somebody looking over the children, right?
Yeah.
And keeping them in line as an authoritarian figure, which is kind of true, right? That psychologically, that is actually true. So
it's the best. It's the best babysitter there is. I think
there's a comment that I've heard in the Midwest recently about like guys who grew up without like a good father figure, and the comment is, "I'll find my father in the Bible."
Oh no.
There you go.
Yahweh
that
not
a lot
role
recently.
model. Yahweh is not a good role model. I feel like
definitely not.
But there is that psychological thing which has been tested, which is if you hang a picture on the wall which has eyes in it, so it's a figure of a person that has eyes in it, then people in the room will automatically behave better.
Yes. I was going to comment about there was a study, I can't remember how it was that they did the particulars of it, but they like gave people this like moral code thing that they had them sign. Like, and one group did it like at the beginning of the semester, and one group did it like just before their finals of the semester. And they found that like this group that did it obviously just before the finals were like felt more obligated to follow this moral code when when not cheating on their finals. Basically, they made it like really easy to cheat, and basically like I can't remember the specifics of it, but then they repeated it and they had them sign the moral code at the beginning of the semester, and then the professor just like reminded them at the beginning of the class when they started their test, oh, remember that moral code that you signed at the beginning of the semester, and it produced similar results to having them sign it just before the test. And I'm wondering how, like, if there's like this potential thief, right, who's like an uber Christian, or maybe not even an uber Christian, but he's been raised Christian, right, and he's coming into the convenience store to rob the guy, and then he happens to notice that the guy like has a tattoo of a cross or of Jesus, and that reminds him of this moral code. Like, is that
that's the
I
thing.
don't know.
I saw the similar thing with the children where they said this invisible person is sitting in this chair watching you, and the kids behave themselves better than the ones that weren't told this invisible person is sitting in the chair watching you, similar to your painting and that. So there is something to, is somebody watching me? And it is in your mind.
That's actually kind of interesting. Oh, go ahead.
I think there's also some kind of a psychological effect that nobody wants to admit that they were wrong or they did something wrong. The example you gave, about bringing the kids, to church, even if you don't go to church anymore, because you were raised in that environment and you think you are the best person ever, which walked the earth. So I mean, I'm going to do. My kids are going to do exactly what I did because I turned out so fantastic, So even if they don't believe it, it's just, I think it's more of a cultural thing, And I see that, for example, where I live, I see it really, really strong, around here. religion is more of a cultural thing rather than
Yeah.
a
Sure.
proper religious thing. It's so
Yeah, but
ingrained in
Fabio,
society. Because I
yeah,
mean
but
we have
Fabio,
the boss living here, so I mean
yeah, but Fabio, like, and this goes back to it's not Serb's non-point, I'll call it, which is which is
Wow.
to say that there are other reasons in this country, because we live in a theocratic country as such in Great
yeah,
Britain, where if you want your kids to go to the better schools, right,
yeah,
they're funded by churches as well as the state, mostly by the state, but they're also funded by some churches. And they, of course, in order to get into them, it's much more difficult, especially if you're not of that religion. They will take you, they have to, because it's a secular state, in inverted commas. But of
yeah.
course, underlying that is the fact that it's a Church of England school, it's a country, or it's a Christian country, and therefore they literally will choose the Christian children first in order to keep
Well,
that demographic within the school. Now that in itself is, exactly what Serb was talking about, which is forcing the majority of people, certainly families, and let's face it, families are where religions do the most damage, because they, as the old saying goes, as the Jesuits used to say, give me the boy till 7 and I'll give you the man. Right, and that's why people go back to it, because they think, okay, well, I'll do the same thing again. As you say, I managed to get away from it, no problem. But of course, some people don't.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's what I was saying. I think the example of this school is a little bit different. I mean, if that's a religious school, I mean, it's basically a club. If you want to join a club and they've got their rules, I mean, they can set up whatever the fuck the rules they want. So, I mean, yeah, I think it's a little bit different. But yeah,
but
the general idea is the same. Yeah.
Sure, but what I'm trying to do is undermine this idea of the personal goals being better, because this is indoctrination.
Right.
You're told they're better from such a young age that you then end up believing they must be better, and so you'd never get rid of them.
Well, yeah, I mean, it remains to be seen if it's really because of that, or rather because, in order for you to fit into some types of society, some niche, you have more advantages of being a Christian or a Buddhist or whatever, rather than something else. If you go what I mean, usually, I mean, all the politics, they believe in something, right? I mean. And they are divorced, they got multiple kids. They spend nights with hookers, when the wife is pregnant. I mean, all this kind of shit. But they got to say no, I'm a good Christian, whatever, because again they got to appeal to the constituents. So
yeah, for sure, in terms of the politics that way. So you were going to just jump in.
Yeah, I was gonna say something about what was said right before Fabio brought this up. I know. And I thought it was interesting. I wanted to mention it. There's a study I read a few years back done in '97 in Chicago, South Side. It was 5 convenience stores and 2 bodegas. They took 3 of these and put big, like, torso-sized wooden crosses with Jesus on it behind the counter, behind where the clerk is. And their crime rates dropped over 25%.
Oh yeah, I work where it is like a high crime area, and somebody gave me like a little Jesus figurine one time, and I was like, heck yeah, like we're sticking this right here up in the front.
Well,
and, like,
sorry, go ahead.
But like absolutely, I had that thought that it's like, if somebody comes in here to rob the place, they're gonna see Jesus. Like, yeah.
Well, it's interesting because there's also the downsides to it when you're talking about sort of children and somebody watching them constantly. Religious trauma syndrome is definitely a thing where people think they're being watched constantly. They tend to develop can develop over a long period of time OCD-like symptoms. It's called scrupulosity, and it's basically them doing repeated things for really, trivial reasons. Like they may think a thought that they don't like, and so they have to go off and it's almost a compulsion to do a religious sort of, Hail Mary or something. And I just want to sort of point out that, yeah, it may cause people to behave, but it can also cause people severe trauma because they think that they have violated the tenets of the religion. So, in one sort of examination, it can be good, but there's also a lot of fallout from it as well.
It's interesting that you mentioned that about like feeling the need to like go do say Hail Marys or whatever. I have actually seen weirdly almost like sort of the opposite of that in this very Catholic area where like people will do something that like is maybe like a little bit morally objectionable, and when you like point out like that's maybe not a very good thing, they'll be like say 10 Hail Marys, as if like that would absolve it. And like
Yeah.
I find that really interesting when people do that.
Well, it's just more that because I've worked with recovering from religion a little bit, and you see this sort of I don't think it's in the DSM, but it probably, I mean, I don't know if it'll be added, but it's definitely something that psychologists are aware of. Dr. Darrell Ray does really good work on it. That sort of religious trauma syndrome is being addressed in the profession.
So I wonder if there's been any studies about the hover parent syndrome for religious minds, because I know if you have a child with an actual hover parent, it stunts their development in some maladaptive ways.
What parent? Sorry, I didn't quite catch that, James.
Helicopter. He means helicopter.
Oh, helicopter. Gotcha.
Right. Sorry. So I wonder if it has the same kind of effect if you're raised to think that you have a helicopter parent that happens to be Jesus.
I would say, see, the issue with having the helicopter parent is eventually the helicopter parent goes away, and then that's when you have problems. Right. I don't think you'll have a problem with Jesus hovering over you.
Yeah.
Until you've been a Christian for 40 years and decide to be an atheist cold turkey.
It's
You'll go through a phase of just being an awful person, probably.
The helicopter parent really more is an issue of like leaving you with an inability to make decisions and things like that, which I don't necessarily see having this idea of Jesus always watching doing that, because Jesus is leaving us open to make decisions and choices.
Well, to an extent, unless you're part of a church where you defer the authority of your decisions to the authority of the church, and they get to tell you what the right and wrong thing is.
Is that Jesus,
that would
or
be
is that the church?
That would be a high control religion, though. Like that would be,
Yeah. I mean, but let's face it. I mean, to my mind, let's face it, all of the religions started out as cults. I mean, not a single one of them didn't.
Yeah, I highly agree.
And I wanted to mention that there is a part of society that embraces that they don't want to think for themselves. The military is a good example. You're told when to wake up, when to eat, when to go to sleep, when to point your weapon this way, when to point your weapon that way. It takes away a lot of that decision making, and there is a mindset that enjoys that, as well as religion and everything, where you don't have to think about things. You can just put everything in somebody else's hand. And then is that a personal goal, or is it just a simplistic view of things, right?
Are all cults bad?
Well, I mean, that is Dave, that is one of the that is one of the defining, I guess. Thank you, Mike. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. Take care. Another way, let me just. I think that's one of the defining things about human minds, shall we say. Somebody else left as well. Mark. Okay, sorry. Oh no, you're here still, Mark. Sorry. Let me just sort this out first.
I didn't leave. I was just booted.
Yeah.
It was me. I'm just psychologically
I was reading this
manipulating you.
so what the fuck has happened? I mean,
Speaking of psychological manipulation, that's exactly what I'm very good at doing.
Is real.
Well, that's what they've been. That's what they've become very good at doing, which is to kind of enable this brotherly love feature, right, to hijack that, right, and to then manipulate it in order to get people not to question that they're going to do whatever their brothers in arms do.
All
Right,
hail
so-
Simos.
But
Yeah,
it can be a
thank you very
goal,
much.
right? That the what you call the salt of the earth folks, right? That don't want to worry about all these things. They just want to get up, have breakfast, go to work, come home, take care of their family, and go back to bed. It's and that's it suits them very well. So is that a personal goal?
Yeah, well, I mean, look at it this way, right? Jesus said, right at the beginning, leave your family, don't pay no heed for the morrow, and that is exactly what the army do, right? They get you, you leave your family, you live with your brothers, you do, etc., right? So that cult originally started in exactly the same way of hijacking what is human nature to be empathetic to the group, right, in order to survive and be stronger. Okay, and it comes out. Now, is that what I'm trying to get to? Is the personal goal side of it? All right, because that becomes a personal goal, and that was psychologically enforced on the whoever it is, right?
I don't know.
I mean,
That's what I'm questioning. Is it forced, or is that the way they really enjoy being, where they don't want, that anything extra? They just want their simple little life, and they're perfectly happy that way, just kicking it on the rocking chair in the porch. They don't need anything else.
Yeah, in your example, it was that of the army, right?
Right.
Military. And that is necessary. If you have an independent mind and you don't jump every time the sergeant major says do X, right? You will be shunned by the group.
Well, it's bad for the group, because the idea with the military is to react and not take the time to think, because
exactly
your brothers in arms and sisters, that included, it depends on that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But of course, that's what I'm saying. It's hijacking a human psychological need, right? And religions do exactly the same thing, or at least the religions that I'm talking about, they do exactly the same thing. Fabio, disagree with me, please.
No. So the thing is that, for the same reason why I objected to Sir before, I have to say that I find this example, a little bit, too much. I mean, it stretches a little bit. I mean, usually when you go to the army, what's going to happen to you. While it's not a given when you join the religion, that is what's going to happen to you. More specifically, as I think Mark said it before, it's when you join the religion, the way that the manipulation happens, and by manipulation, I want to be as general as I can. It can also be, how they change your moral values or whatever, happens in a way more subtle way rather than the military. I mean, if I join the military, I know I gotta wear a uniform. They're gonna give me a gun, and somebody's gonna shout me to do shit, right? So, yeah.
I would add that, but there is a means to the end, though. The reason they do all those silly things has a great explanation. Is back to when you're in the heat of the battle, that you're going to do what you're told, and right now, and the person next to you and behind you and alongside of you can count on that. And if not, the cohesion falls apart, and you don't have a good a group in the military to fight a battle. Yeah.
No, but I mean, I listen. I agree that at the end of the day, the mechanism might be the same, right?
It's drawing on the same mechanism, because we have that family already.
Right. I mean, but what I'm just saying, I mean, is if you join the military, I mean, first of all, I mean, 9 times out of 10, you know exactly what you're going to get into. And also, more importantly, I think that, in the military, it's more in your face. It's from the day one that they tell you
Yeah.
what you will have to do. While when you
Your
join a
mama's not
religion,
here to wipe your butt anymore.
yeah, right. I mean,
That's the first thing they say.
yeah. Well, usually when you join a religion, or God forbid, a cult, it's like it's like the thing, when you put a frog in the boiling water, they just
Yeah.
do not realize, yeah, and
Uh,
just turn in the water and just turn up the heat. I mean, they just stay there and they die because they don't realize they're gonna get killed.
Yeah.
So yeah,
But they shun on people having an independent thoughts, questioning their moral
yeah.
behavior or the logic behind what they're being taught, etc., etc. It's a question of acceptance. So
Yeah, that's the thing. It is. It's that need for the acceptance. I think somebody mentioned what it's called earlier. Yeah, you strive for that acceptance thing.
Yeah. And like, you can understand how that's working, right? That's a psychological thing. Exactly the same way that Ricky Gervais was talking about the babysitter was Jesus, right? When his mum left. Because every time she'd go out the door, she'd go, and remember, Jesus is watching you, right? To reinforce the point,
Yeah, don't punch your brother because Jesus is watching you. Okay, yeah.
And ironically, I love his story about that's how he came out of religion, because his brother came in one day and she said, "Why are you doing that?" And he said, "Well, because Mum's gone out and she told me to draw a picture of Jesus for her." And he went, "Oh, you don't believe in that shit, do you?" And then when he questioned his mum smiled.
Yeah.
That told him everything he needed to know. So I think that's how subtle the human brain can be. But okay, so Serb, back to you, sir.
Well, I mean, if we're sticking with the goals, I think we have to be way more specific.
Okay.
Right. I mean, it's going to depend on your environment, your own personal temperament, like the culture that you're in, part of your environment. It's too broad to be like, yeah, they got better goals, or no, they don't got better goals. Anyone that would say that they automatically have better or worse goals because it's a religion just doesn't know what they're talking about.
Or they're religious.
Yeah, or they're well. I mean, that they just don't know what they're talking about. I would say
it's same difference. Oh. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I do think there's something to the struggle, right? I find the struggle that you have to go through to A, defeat those feelings of nihilism, and B, to to then put something in place which is going to be lasting and isn't going to get you in trouble with the society. Right? It's easy enough just to put shit in place. I'm going to go out and I'm going to be hedonistic and I'm going to just take advantage of people whenever I want. But those goals aren't going to get you through, like Mike was talking about, an easy life. Or it's not going to give you an easier path. Right? So the example here I would use is, if you lie all the time, you have to keep in mind all those lies that you've told in case somebody just questions you on it, right? Because you have to then fulfill the lies in order to remain, convincing, right? Whereas if you just always tell the truth, then of course it's much easier, isn't it? Because you just go through life just saying what it is that actually you think is the truth. And sometimes it's going to be wrong and sometimes you're going to be right.
Religions and priests have figured out a hack to that, which is you write it down and make your believers of your lies memorize them.
Yeah, that's a good point. Go ahead, Mel.
I was going to say it's like, but like having the truth doesn't like necessarily get you like a pass in society. Like look at Galileo. Like, I mean, yeah, it's the truth helps, but it's not necessarily doesn't necessarily get you the free pass and the rubber stamp.
I think that the most dangerous thing that religious people, I'm not talking about religion, religious people do is to tell you that you basically need a reason not to be a psychopath. I mean, I don't know how many times I've been, asked, by religious people, oh, but if you don't believe in anybody, in God or whatever, why don't you go out and kill people, as much as you want? And I mean, my reply usually is,
I do.
no, that is exactly what I do. The reason, but I'm not killing anybody because I'm not a cunt, but yeah, I mean, I go out and I kill, everybody that I want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it's really weird because I've been in a couple of debates where I've literally had to explain what empathy is to people.
Yeah, right.
And that's a weird sensation. I was in one recently where the guy claimed that there was no such thing as psychopaths and that like it was just made up. And it's just disturbing to have to say, and a lot of these people, I do grant you, they do say, hey, if I wasn't religious, I would go out and just kill everyone. I don't think that's true for most of them.
Yeah.
I think that most people that say that, they would still love their wives and love their children and want to fit into society, and they would still have the same constraints as everybody else. But you do run into those ones where you're like, I think you're a psychopath. Like you're actually a psychopath. David Wood, for instance, is an example who says sort of without religion, he would just be slaughtering everybody. And maybe that's true.
Hammer time.
I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, listen, if that's really the case, thank whatever God that he is a religious guy. I don't care.
Exactly.
So if that makes you not go out and kill people, I mean, if this is what he says, of course, I'm not sure he will do that. But if you really believe that, thank God you're a religious guy. I mean,
I don't think that's
God.
Yeah,
I don't think that's necessarily
that's personal,
the case.
though, right?
No, but I agree with you. I agree with you,
But
Mark.
I think that even because psychopaths get a bad rap, right? They're just sort of seen as horrible. But if you can still reason with them that, hey, if you want to fit into society and have all the things that you want, there's certain things that you've got to do within society, and they can be like led to understand it. The problem is that they never seek help because they never admit there's anything wrong with them. It's kind of this reluctance to admit there's anything wrong there. But if you can get them to a place where you can sort of say, hey, if you want, so David Woods, for instance, if he wants to have a good life and in, the things that he wants, he can't hit people with a hammer, right? Like that's basically where it comes down to. So, you can, there are psychopaths who live in our world and they're fine. They're productive members of society. They don't do anything wrong. And, they just have no sense of empathy. That's all. And so this idea of motivated self-interest can be used to get them to adhere to the norms of society. It's just the problem is that, I don't know, that I think that people largely have been convinced that without a God, you're going to do all of these things, and it's not true. I think they've been convinced of that by the priests and the people that make money off the religion and the people that, if you don't have a objective morality, you've got no morality at all. I've heard that constantly, and it's not true.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. There is also the fact, that listen, in order to be a proper psychopath, and I mean a proper one, the one that goes out and axes people, with a machete and stuff like that, you usually got to have bigger balls than the common religious person that we meet on the internet. If you get what I mean. So yeah.
You have to be a proper Catholic priest or something.
Yeah. Well, at least a cardinal.
A bishop or a cardinal, maybe.
Yeah. No, bishop, I don't think that's the mustard. But yeah.
Okay, I want to welcome Lyrics of Dust. Thank you very much for joining in. Is there something you wanted to say straight away? Or?
I don't. I wasn't paying attention for a minute, so I don't know the exact context of what you're talking about.
If I can stop you a second, you're kind of roboting a little bit, or you're breaking up. Could you go off camera? to give me a bit more bandwidth there. Okay, try again.
Can you hear me now?
It's the same. It's the
It's the
same.
same.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, your mic's just a little
Too bad.
poppy. It's popping.
Very poppy, in fact. Yeah.
I was gonna say, are these people that say they need religion or God or Jesus or whatever? I think they're mostly being honest. It's just they have a personal bias, right? Unless someone has an overwhelming amount of evidence for them, they tend to think they're more or less normal. So they project how they feel onto everyone else, and people seek what they feel like they need.
Yeah, I mean,
If
it
they
sounds
need it, they assume that you need it.
right. I mean, but you would agree, Service, that sounds more like a you problem than a me problem.
Yeah, but they're
Yeah,
going to think
yeah.
it's a you problem, right?
Yeah. Cool.
Does that sound better?
Yeah, it's a little bit better. Yeah.
That's better. Yeah.
All right, I just had a question. I had a serious question. What does ontology or epistemology have to do with human needs?
What does ontology is sort of inaccessible. We've only got epistemology.
I don't know. I know what those words mean. I know what they mean. What does your ontology or your epistemology have to do with how you feel your needs are being met?
Okay, before you continue here, Lyric, check your mic. You're popping like crazy.
Yeah, it's sort of.
Well, that's okay. I still heard the question, but
you turn
so
it down.
human needs, like, so you've got personal needs that you would want for yourself. You've got human needs, psychological, physiological, social needs in order to sustain whatever it is that's going. I don't know, sort of, it's a very odd question to have ontological needs. I suppose we know that humans do. I would kind of point to like a Maslow's hierarchy, but we've got a bit more of a grasp on it now. That you've got at the bottom physiological, then up to psychological, then to sort of fulfillment needs like self-actualization and things like that.
Things that, regardless of regardless of like epistemological belief, regardless of how you express those ontological needs, is that what you guys are asking? Like, is it the way that the way that it's expressed is more important than like the needs being taken care of? You know what I mean?
This is a real strange phrasing, Lyrics, because when you're talking about epistemology and ontology, like ontology is the actuality of things, and epistemology is how you arrive at knowledge and belief. So
yes. So atheists and theists or whatever, like all these different perspectives, they seem to be like not acknowledging that they all have the same ontological need. And they seem to think that like their explanation, right, is the way that produces the better results of the fulfillments of the ontological needs. And
well, no, that's not necessarily true, because you may.
What are you arguing about? What are you actually talking about? Like, who can tell you that the best way to fulfill your needs? Like, that's what you're asking, right?
Yeah, but that is epistemology, how you come at knowing what human needs are. So religions may have, say, they reject, for instance, vaccines, for instance, they just reject them entirely, right? And I would see that as, well, that's really bad. And my epistemology would be, the amount of damage that diseases have caused in the past, like polio, for instance, used to strike down children all over the place. But they may reject that as being a physiological need. Psychology, I was just talking about religious trauma syndrome, where depending on the religion, it may be comforting to people, or it may instill in them a fear of hell or something like that. So I don't think it is true that the way you're using ontological means that it's somehow in actuality independent of any sort of belief or knowledge. It's a very strange way to put it.
Yes, I think it is. I think that you're absolutely right. I think that those are the basic needs of humanity, right? I think your psychological needs go into that ontological need, right? But you need to have the phenomenon needs to happen, right? And then the epistemology, I think, is the explanation of the happening.
Well, sure, but the
Right.
religion may be more concerned with the spiritual needs of people rather than any kind of physical need, right? Like we do see
Yeah,
a lot in some
oh
of
yeah.
these religions. So I
It's so
don't think
abstracted that it gets lost in the
lyrics,
fold.
just a sec, just if I could finish. I don't think necessarily that what I would say the needs of humans are is the same as what someone in a religion would say the needs of humans are.
Well, that's because their epistemology, they're explaining it differently, right? But like we all have basic needs. I'm sorry, but if you really get down to it, a Christian will tell you that they have the same social and psychological needs that the atheist does, and they're just epistemologies are different, right? But the ontological soundness of those needs is apparent through any society, and I'm just wondering why are the boundaries up where this particular thing is not applicable? Why is it like it's just not applicable? Maybe that's what I'm getting hung up on in these conversations is like, I think the way that you're phrasing the question is wrong. I think that broad stroking particular religious or non-religious or any idea with this kind of ism doesn't promote true epistemological soundness. It just seems to say that no, baby out with the bathwater. This is right, and I haven't heard any sort of real logical explanations in this hangout so far. I just heard feelies and Mr. Feelers. So I was just trying to figure out what are you guys talking about.
So we're talking about personal goals, right? Like, so this is the reason why you've heard something from a perspective of people, like, because we're talking about personal goals, which are not goals given to you by any kind of authority. They're not employment. They're not, any kind
That's right. They're almost
societal
ontological
obligation.
needs. Ontological needs, right?
No. Personal goals are not
Connections that you need to make in your mind. No.
No.
They're just fancies of whims of fancies that whoever has.
No, lyrics. It's that your goals can be needs, but they're not one for one overlap. That's
right. So just say I
find this is a hierarchy. Why are we? I thought we were. These aren't equal things, right? Goals are made of needs. Right, and personal goals are made from particular needs that humans have.
No. If I have a personal goal to like get in shape or learn a language, right? That's not a need.
I would see it as I would appear to be in better physical health for everyone else, and I would want to communicate better with everyone else. Those are social needs that I would be fulfilling.
No, they're wants.
Okay.
Yeah, well, lyrics. I would say the needs of those situations have a threshold, right? We're not talking about it. Well, up to a certain threshold, it's a need, and past that certain threshold, it would just be a want,
like a desire.
Yeah.
Well, I'm talking about the needs, dog, not your whatever silly human wants. It's all your silly human needs.
But no, that's why if I don't know how long you've been listening, but that's why all the examples and stuff people have been talking about have been, this religion in this context or this person this way and this thing. It's all been very specific because I think most of us here understand that you can't just make a blanket statement saying religion or non-religion is good or bad all the time for personal goals.
Yeah, so your epistemological beliefs shouldn't have an effect on what your personal goals are.
No, that's not what I'm saying. And I don't think anyone.
Okay, look, one of the examples that we were talking about earlier was, or I was talking about, was AA, for instance, right? Where it's deemed to have a higher power is a good thing because it can reinforce your willpower to do something like quit alcohol in this case, right? So you can substitute the alcohol need, right, if only temporarily, with some desire to engage with a higher inverted commas power, right? Some whatever it is, and that could be many things, right? Buddhism, or it could be just deism in general. As long as you believe that that is, is more pseudosomatic, right? So psychosomatic, I should say.
Yeah, yeah. Beliefs
So,
are.
and that's not to do with ontology or epistemology necessarily, right? So, like when I thought of it, well, I didn't think
Well,
of the topic.
are you sure,
But
dude?
when the topic was posed to me, I thought, oh yeah, actually this is quite a good topic, because there's two aspects to it, isn't there? There is the aspect you're talking about of like people deeply ingraining themselves into the ideas and the ontology behind the religion that they are genuinely looking forward to, at the end of their life, receiving an eternal life in a paradise called heaven, where they can worship the Almighty that they've dedicated their earthly life to, and get rid of all of the trash, right? The trash atheists, which are going to hell, and the trash Catholics that are going to hell, and the Hindus that are going to hell, and everybody. You know what I mean, right?
It's a self-reinforcing sadomasochist tendency.
Yeah.
Dude.
In some sense, yeah. I mean, like we've all
That's
noticed.
exactly what it is. If you apply it to actual reality, if you don't cut it off in the abstract world and reflect on it, then of course people that don't reflect are going to want everyone else to go to hell, because if you don't reflect, you project. So,
if you're not in, you're out. Yeah.
That's right, dude. So the ontological view, that is wrong, right? Well, I think the ontological view that is an actuality in reality, like physical, like that is a main thing in the Abrahamic religions that is not touched upon, right? That the other religions don't have. And I think that a lot of these personal experiences are based on that, right? Or based on
absolutely.
The difference between those things, between the reflection and the projection and the sadomasochistic tendencies of all these people, right? That they're just projecting out. And I think that sours the grapes.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly it, right? So, thank you for saying that, because, like the revelation is an epistemological justification that the ontological position of God existing is true, right? And that is so convincing to some people, because that gives them the absolute certainty, right? Which is, like, let's face it, I think everybody in this room just goes, well, that's fucking bullshit, right? How can, there is no ontological truth, right? Not that we can know. There may be an ontological truth, but we can't know it, because we are literally epistemologically bound, right? So everything is going to be epistemological for us.
But we feel it, though, because we wouldn't be talking.
Even if you felt it, that feeling would be your epistemology. We can't access an ontology. We can't.
No, I know, but like the way that you express that pulling is through the epistemology. That's what I'm saying. Like it's a thing, right? Ontology is a real thing. We all can agree on that. And
well, I don't know. We don't agree on that.
You don't? You think it's?
Well, I don't think it's a real thing. I think it's something we convince ourselves of, and it's a useful delusion, right?
Well, but we can't stay in La La Land.
What do you mean, La La Land is ontology, as far as I'm concerned? Like, how can we know?
I know. Well, when do we decide to project or reflect? When's the moment for you where that happens?
And it never happens. I never reflect that this thing I know through epistemology is absolutely certain, that it's ontologically true.
Well, I don't think that the truth factor of the ontological statement is what matters. I just think that there's an actual ontological pulling. That's what I'm just expressing.
Okay. There's a
through
desire.
the epistemology.
Sure.
And I think that's ritual, right? That's ritual, and that's religion. I guess I don't know. I don't know. How to
Yeah,
explain it, dude.
maybe. I mean, maybe. I guess, but I don't think. I don't know what use. Okay, this is my personal position, right? So I don't know what use having some firm ontological commitment has, right? Other than saying, look, I have some epistemological justification, or some psychological addiction to this particular position because it helps me pragmatically in my life. But at no point am I ever going to say that this ontological position that I hold is anything but an a priori assumption.
I got so hard right there, dude.
Oh, do you? Thank you.
That was
It's
great.
good to
That was
see you
great.
again.
That was great, dude.
Okay. Anybody got anything to say on that particular subject? Because that's quite interesting to me personally.
I don't think you can top that, Sinos. I mean,
No, we can't top it, but I can get us headed in a downward direction if anybody wants to start lowering the bar now.
Please do, James. Please do.
So I think that there probably is an objective reality. I just think, and it's possible that we are perceiving accurately some elements of that objective reality. We just have no way to verify if that's the case or when that's the case. And it could be that we're completely missing the boat. Like whatever the objective reality is, what we're seeing doesn't really approximate it. That's also possible. We've got no way to know one way or the other. That's what I think.
Oh, please don't pull us into hard solipsism, please. I'm begging you. Come on.
I warned you we were heading down from there because Russ can.
I was warned. Yes, you're right.
Let's go. Let's go there. You know nothing.
I know something. Okay, I know at least one thing. Thank you very much.
This is the downward spiral. This develops into solipsism, right? This is this frame of reasoning, right? And there has to be something that combats that, right? Because this seems to be the human condition where we turn narcissistic or solipsistic when in groups, right? Trying to obey each other or virtue signaling. And there seems to be something that we can snap ourselves out of this ontological poopy, right? This
yeah.
When
It's called epistemology. Yes, it's called epistemology. Yes,
exactly. But everyone's expressing it like wrong, dude. Right? That's how we got Hitler and all this crazy stuff, dude. Right? Like we're trying to figure out what's the best way to express the best possible way towards that need to express ontological soundness. Right? We know it's never a thing, right? But we're way better at it than we were 2,000 years ago. It's always a journey, right? And
right.
I think that's more. I think that's what you guys are talking about, right? Like the main thing of getting at is like what you're trying to all figure out is how to get the best ontological soundness to make your goals and actualization better.
I think you meant epistemological. I want to thank.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Epistemological, yeah, it's all sorts. Sorry.
Yeah, I knew what you meant. And I want to thank Tilting Windmill over there in chat for dropping those links. Thank you very much.
Tilting rocks. Thanks for dropping the links, Tilting. Much appreciated.
Cheers, mate.
What's the way epistemologically? Like it's a hierarchy, right? Like so you start at the ground, right? I guess. I don't know how to do this altogether. Like how to build a god from scratch. It's difficult.
Can I just put something up here a second? Sorry. Sorry. It's I know. Okay, there we go. Okay.
Lovely.
That basically encapsulates my view right there.
Deep in thought.
Okay, good, jolly good.
Narf.
Right, let me just go back to the other view. And we'll move people around. Oh, hang on.
I got family.
There we go. I beg your pardon?
Goodbye, I got family. Have a good night, everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Have a good night.
Charlie.
Yeah.
Did anybody want to comment on that in general about the philosophical side I guess.
I mean, what do I say? Look, I get that we want to have the most robust epistemology, the one with, I think he's sort of saying, hey, we have to have the soundest way to find, to be the most accurate to ontology that we can. And I don't disagree with any of that. I think that that's a really good idea. But I mean, personal goals, I don't think you've got to justify them in any real sense. I think that, you know, whatever you decide for whatever reason you decide it. Well, I mean, as long as yeah, I guess so.
Even to yourself, though. I mean, I would say that that's what the personal goals are all about. Is just finding a reason to believe that these goals are going to fulfill your sense of, I don't know. I mean, I can use big words like destiny, or I can just say quite
Isn't it
simply.
enough that you just feel like it? You know, is that really an epistemology? I don't think it would be raised to the level of an epistemology. I think it's enough that, you know, you feel like doing the thing.
I don't think that suffices, though, just to say I feel like it, and that's good enough, right? Because that does sort of seem to
I don't know.
me
That's where I disagree. I disagree, Simons. I think that can be good enough for many people.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Fabio, you're going to disagree as well?
No, I think I'm more on Mark's side here. So I'm not really sure. So first of all, I think that any sane person would talk about reasonable goals, right? So and
right.
Usually, yeah, and usually reasonable goals are more, how can I say, so I can have whatever epistemology you want, right? But depending on where I live, the situation I'm in, the culture I'm in, the society I'm in, you know, my reasonable goals might have nothing to do or very little to do with my epistemology. If you get what I mean. So I'm not really sure that you can really tie the two things together. I mean, Mark said it before, I think, we're talking about something else. He said, well, you know, you got to make do with what you have, right? I mean, you've dealt a set of cards and you play with what you have.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter if I want to be an astronaut. If I was born in Rwanda, it's going to be tough, right? I mean, I can have that aspiration as a goal, but does it really have to do with my epistemology? So I'm really confused about that. Like,
I use sports as an analogy, right? Everybody wants, everybody that plays sports, anyways, they want to be in the pros someday. But yeah, you have to be realistic that you're probably not going to play in the pros. But at the same time, you can enjoy playing the game and be the best at the game, even knowing you're probably never going to be in the pros, no matter how badly you want it. So
actually,
there is that level. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I'll probably jumping too far here, but I would say that
I think so.
If well, I don't know. Let me jump first. No,
okay. Well, I've already had my counter to the last point.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Just prepare the mattress because I'm jumping way over my.
Okay.
But I mean, I think that everybody epistemology should take into consideration what your reasonable goals are or might be. Right. So I think in a way it's the other way around.
But let me say this, and it's slightly more than that. I feel right. Not it helps to have these things in line, right? Because your epistemology is very much going to determine what kind of life goals, and I'm using that quite deliberately now, are going to be applicable. But but more than that, they're going to determine which ones are going to be satisfying. And that's the important part as far as I'm concerned, because feeling it is just not cutting it for me. And the reason it doesn't cut it for me is because in a sense, like once I mean, we all go through the phase where we do that hedonistic kind of idea of doing, well, I'm gonna do things which sate my desires, right? And that's the good thing about Buddhism, right? It fights strongly against that because it recognizes that in the long term, that kind of leads to a sense of instability.
Yeah.
Right, because you're at the whim of the chemicals that you ingest and the environment that you live in and the peer pressure that you're put under, and all of those things become, quite dominant after a while. If you're just going to wake up in the morning and go, "What do I feel like doing today?"
Yeah.
Right. So that's why I was pushing back against it and saying, look, this idea of just doing what you feel is never, for me, is not going to be satisfying for even the most rigorous mind, right? At some point, you're going to have to go back to this dogmatic approach.
I'm not saying that it will get you better goals. I'm just saying the bare minimum for having a goal is just, it's fine if you just feel like doing that thing. Like if you just feel like doing art for no other reason than you just enjoy it, I think that is sufficient reason.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If you want to be an artist, if that's where your life...
Well, you may not even want to be an artist. You might just enjoy doing art. That's the thing. Like, I think that for personal goals, and don't get me wrong, having a sound epistemological structure to set up of, and this is sort of alludes to what Speed of Sound was kind of, talking about, that if you want to say, hey, I should do this then because I want to get to this thing, yeah, you're probably going to have a way better fulfillment of that goal than if you just say, hey, I'm going to do art whenever I feel like it, right? If you're like, well, I want to take classes and then I want to do this. But something he said's pretty good, which is like, well, he lives in the moment kind of thing, not trying to plan like that. And I think that if that is the case, then it's enough that you feel like doing something. You're not hurting anybody else. I don't think you need a sound epistemology for that. I think it's enough to say, hey, that's what I feel like doing. It doesn't hurt anybody and I enjoy it. I think that's enough.
Yeah. I think that's quite an older person centric as well. Right. So I think it's easier for older people.
Are you calling me old? You just call me old.
To the young people in Rwanda, though, I want to give you a shout out. Don't give up on your dreams, right? Just because you're in a tough place, don't give up on your dreams, because you know what? We didn't have a space program at one time either. So, hang in there no matter where you are. We're rooting for you.
I think it's a bit more than that, Dave, because I think there's a sense that if you aim for things which are unachievable, right, i.e. just out of reach, not necessarily so far out of reach that they're delusional, right? I'm not talking about that. I want to fly unaided, That's not the kind of thing I'm talking about. But
that's exactly what I thought.
things which are achievable, right? If not,
we do the big things because they are hard.
If not because things that are achievable, if not because you may not be able to do them now, but there is a chance that they are things that can be done. Then I think there's evidence that those kind of goals are more life fulfilling than just saying, right, I have a short-term goal of this, that, and the other, which will suffice, right? Because those short-term goals are not leading you in any long-term direction, right? Even if it is something like, today I'm going to paint a picture of X, Y, Z. Unless you have the goal, right? I'm going to paint a picture of me in the mirror, for instance, right? And unless you say, my goal is, I'm going to do that every day until I can, do portraiture. That's a long-term goal, right? So the two are still linked.
The problem is that there might be people that set themselves unreachable goals, and then they just become frustrated. It might be because they might be crazy, or the classical example of what everything says in the US. If you work hard enough, you can be anybody. That's bullshit. If you live by that thing, you're gonna end up at 50, at 60, and you're gonna feel yourself that you failed at life.
I watch the kids. I watch the kids go from peewee to grade school to high school, Some of them were lucky enough to go to college, and a few of them will make it to the professionals. But it didn't take away from the peewees playing their little hearts out, right? And that's okay as long as you keep them in the reality of, hey, you can enjoy yourself and have a great time and think you're a superstar without ever making it to the other levels.
Yes,
Well,
but
depends
that
what you define
that I
success
think
as,
falls.
you know.
Yeah, that I think falls more into the live in the moment. The issue is if those same youngsters or young people, they feel like that unless they become that top, whatever the
Right.
fuck it is,
Yeah.
Right.
they're gonna be a failure. That is the issue.
Right.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So
Um,
again, if we
sorry,
talk about the
sorry to
sound of
interrupt.
his,
I've just got to take off and do some stuff, so I apologize, Fab.
Okay.
Keep that in mind. But I'll see you later. Have a good night or
Thank
day
you
or
so
whatever.
much for coming
Cheers,
on, Mark.
All right,
You
Mark.
really
No
added
worries.
to the discussion. Thank you very much.
thank you very
I'll
much.
take my-
Before you
my-
go, let me do that. Go ahead.
Ancient old ass. Okay.
Yeah, mid-60s. Yeah, he looks very good for his mid-60s. I will say that.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, okay. I mean, I guess, is there anything else anybody wants to bring up to do with the topic? If
No.
not, we can shut it down, I guess.
You know, say not live. I wouldn't mind talking about what I was talking about.
Yeah,
Like,
go ahead. We'll give
afterward.
that a go for a little while, yeah. No, go on.
Oh,
We'll do it
you want
live.
to do it?
Yeah, we'll
Oh,
do
I
it live. Just try and be a bit more careful with the language, though.
Whichever one. Oh,
Mm.
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Okay.
I'll try.
Yeah,
I'll
just
I'll
try.
figure it out.
Yeah. Just try.
I was going to say, I want to address the issue about, it has to have some type of divinity.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Right.
Sure. Okay,
And-
so we're going to segue a little bit here, just to preface this. We're going to segue onto a slightly different topic, which is the definition of religion. Okay, thank you. So go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I think there's a real issue with that being a requirement, because surely we don't mean, if we say that, we don't mean that we have to think that there's something divine about it, right? It's that the believers in it think there's something divine about it.
Yeah.
And if that's going to be like the qualifier your definition hangs on, I'm sure we could find someone that thinks just about anything's divine in a sincere manner. Right. That's
I
why
agree.
I don't include that in my definition, because I think that actually makes it more broad, not less broad.
Right. Okay. Well, firstly, I agree. You're really talking about pantheists, aren't you? Right. That's just the most general type of thing. Somebody who thinks that God created or the universe is God. Right. Let's just put it straight out there. Therefore, everything is God. Right. Would you agree? So that's the.
Well, I
broadest
wasn't going
definition.
that far, but yeah, that would be an all-encompassing example.
Right. Okay. So let's talk about that. Okay. So what kind of personal goals then does that allow the pantheists to have? Right. Over what? Should we say? I don't know. Say a naturalist.
Oh, well, I mean, a lot of pantheists are naturalists, so
Maybe.
I mean, it's like I used to say the difference between a pantheist and an atheist is semantics.
Yeah, I agree.
So-
I agree with you, but like I don't know. Do you think that there is such a thing? So there's no such thing as a religious pantheist. Is that right?
No, I think there is. I think they're religious. I think they have a religion.
Right.
It's just the difference
But are
between
you
them and an
using the
atheist
word
is just
religion
makeup.
there like you would say for a football club or a cycling club? Or are you using it in the sense
Well,
of
actually,
like
no. That's
an
a good point.
Abrahamic religion?
I was using it in the sense like an Abrahamic religion or Buddhist or anything like that. But actually, now that I think about it, you don't actually have to have a religion to be a pantheist. You just have to believe in this singular divine thing. Right. And then
again, you're just substituting a name there, divine, for religion. So not really that interested in that.
oh well, not me. I think religion has morality attached to it. That's what I say. It has cultural rules that have taboos to it.
Right, but
You don't need any of that to be a pantheist. That's not usually prescribed.
I mean, it might not be a necessary a property to have, but it certainly is contingent, isn't it?
I mean, it's usually when you get that, there's usually an addition, like you're a Christian pantheist, for example, and your taboos are coming from that Christian part, not the pantheist part.
Well, okay, but like if you think that the universe is God, and that God is divine, then you think that your morals are God because they're part of the universe.
Well, yeah, but that's only because everything.
Everything. Exactly. That's what I'm saying, right? It's exactly what I'm saying. So what it hangs on is whether you think that this God thing is some kind of supernatural entity of some sort, right? So whether you think that it's just the universe is nothing but natural, okay, if you're a pantheist, which is a naturalist, fair enough, you don't think that. But then you, as you're saying, if you're a naturalistic pantheist, then you're just really an atheist by another name, right? So I'm not interested in that, right? But if you think that there is this divine component, right, then by divine don't we mean just supernatural of some sort?
No, I don't think almost no one defines the word. That's one of the other reasons why I don't use it.
Okay, so how are you defining divine then?
I don't. I think it's a nonsense word.
Well, there we are.
99% of the cases.
So what you're saying is nonsense then, in other words, right?
I'm not the one that said it was a requirement.
No, I'm not saying it's a requirement, but what I am saying to you is it's part of religion, the way that we're trying to use this word in relation to influencing personal goals.
I don't think it directly tracks back to personal goals. That's why I was going to talk about it off air.
Okay. I'm just not sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't mind off air or on air. It doesn't matter to me. But yeah. Look, I don't know, sir, because like when you say, to me, you're substituting words for what I'm talking about, and that's fine. I've got no issue with that. But I need you to be clearer on what you mean when you use the word divine in relation to this pantheist position. Otherwise, I can't judge it. Right? If you're just saying it's a naturalistic pantheist and that's a priori, or that's just a synonym for atheist, then yeah, I can agree with that, and that's fine. And that falls into exactly the point that we're making here, which is if you don't have that as a religion, right? If you discount that position as being a religion, and do the people that not have that position have better personal goals?
Okay, but
is the question.
I wasn't the one that brought up pantheism, so
no, I did because you were explaining something to me, and I said, did this fit into what you were trying to explain? And you said yes,
it's an all-encompassing example in which everything, in a sense, would then be religious. But that's not what I'm talking about. What I was bringing up, what I was bringing up is, what is and isn't religion. If you're trying to figure that out, saying that it has to have some divine aspect, I think actually makes it more broad. Narrows it. Because when you say, "Oh, it has to have some divine aspect," you don't mean that you think it has some divine aspect. Otherwise, according to an atheist, there would be no religions because there's no divinity anywhere, right? And that doesn't seem to be the case. So it has to be that someone thinks there's something divine.
No, that can't be true either. No, that can't be true because, as an atheist, I accept that theism exists. I just think that the proposition that it represents is false.
Yeah, you just said something that agreed with what I said, so I don't know.
Yeah, well, of course, because you said then there would be no religions, and that's not what I say. No, that's not correct. Of course, there's religions. It's just that the proposition that they're based upon, the ontological proposition they're based on, is false.
Okay,
they think it's true, and that's where the dichotomy is. They think
I don't think you're hearing me because you're disagreeing with me and then immediately agreeing with what I said. I'm saying that when we say divinity has to be an aspect of it being a religion, any given thing.
Yeah.
it can't be that you think it has divinity to it, right? Because then,
Right.
then according to an atheist, there would be no religions because
No,
there's no divinity.
that's right. That's right. I don't think there is.
So,
The proposition God exists is true. I think it's false. So in that
Yeah,
sense,
so
it doesn't work. But I'm not talking about my position. I'm talking about their position. When I ask the question, does religion give you better personal goals? I'm not talking about in my position, does religion give you better personal goals? I'm talking about somebody who believes in the divinity, right, and thinks that God does exist as a divine being, right? Does that allow you to have better personal goals? That was the question that was being asked.
I thought we were doing a tangent, though.
I don't know what tangent means in this context.
Well, you said we're doing a separate topic. We're taking a.
Well, no, you wanted to talk about the definition of religion.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't know why we're going to goals. I'm just confused where you're going. What I'm pointing out is
you keep saying that from my position, then there is no religion, right? And that's false, because I think some people believe that there is.
There was an if in there, and then you agreed with it. So I don't know.
I said, I think, right, that there is that the proposition God exists is false. That I recognize that not everybody thinks that, and therefore religion does exist.
Okay, so you just agreed with what I said that you're saying is false. That's why I'm confused.
I have no idea when you put it that way. What statement do you think that it makes you think that I think it's false?
Well, you said it's false.
I think that I think it's false, yes. But that's not the interesting question, is it? It doesn't matter what I think about it.
Okay, I don't know where you are. I have no clue where you are.
I think I'm trying to be as clear as possible.
Fabio and a couple other people
go ahead.
said that in order for something to be a religion, there has to be some sort of divine aspect to it. And what I was just pointing out when I started talking was it can't be that they think that there's divinity to it, because then according to them there'd be no religions because they don't think there's any divinity.
Well, by they, who do you mean they?
Well, atheists, but then more specifically the people in the room that brought it up.
Yeah, that's correct. None of us here think that there is actually such a thing as an ontological divinity.
Right. So then if divinity is going to have to be an aspect in the definition or description,
yes,
it has to be that someone else thinks that there's divinity in that thing.
Correct.
Yeah, the people, the religious people who believe in that religion.
Yeah.
And who believe that religion is true.
The issue I have with that is that it makes it more broad. Because we could find someone that sincerely believes just about anything's divine.
No, only if you define divine as being nebulous and whatever you want. Yeah.
No, we've just been through that. That's why we went through the definition. Right, to say if they don't think, right, we can't find anybody who thinks that it is divine, right? And we can find people who think there's divinity and are non-religious. I'm sure we could do that, right? There's plenty of spiritual people in common that think the universe is some amazing place to be, which has no explanation and is not naturalistically explained. I'm sure there's some people like that, but again, that's the exception. I'm not interested in that. So the other side of it is that the divinity part of it, their belief, right, means that they will agree with it. They will agree with it being religious, a religious context that they take, succor from.
Yeah, and all I'm saying is that shouldn't be considered a part of what would make it a religion or not. Because whatever we're talking about, if we could take a survey of every human being, we could find some people that think the thing's religious or divine.
Religious?
Divine. Whatever the part of culture that we would be arguing whether it's religion or not. We could find someone that could find divinity in that thing. Yeah. So then, if divinity is a pre-qualifier, I'm saying it doesn't actually disqualify anything.
I think you're just mixing up necessary and sufficient conditions. But
Well,
you know,
you're also mixing up divine and divinity, which are two
well,
separate things.
oh, he's gone. I was just about to introduce him. Thank you, Skeptic, for coming in. I don't know. Yeah, you come back in again, please. Also, John with Dropouts here. Thank you so much, John. Oh, yep, good. I think he's back. Hello. Can you hear us? Can you hear us? 1 2 1 2 1 2. Skeptic.
Oh, yes.
Okay, just needs plugging in. Yeah, 1
Hello?
2 1 2. It'll come on in a minute.
Okay.
Yeah.
But when you put
If
your
it leaves
microphone
again.
down, then please be free to talk. And I'll put your link in chat as well. Okay, sorry. So, can you hear us, Skeptic? Can you nod if you can hear us? Okay,
Nope.
it's not. It's not there yet.
No.
You might need to go out and come back in again now you've plugged your headphones in. Okay. Sorry, sir. Sorry, sir.
Maybe leave him in the back room.
No,
till
it's
he-
all right. You can.
Okay.
Yeah,
No, it's good. Perhaps he's talking. He's looking at the thing in through YouTube. I don't know.
Fair enough.
Okay. Sorry, sir. Yeah, I think I was grasping what you were saying, but again, I'm not sure the relevance of it to what we're talking about in terms of the definition of religion. Okay, so let me try and focus on that more specifically.
Okay, that I'm saying it shouldn't be included in the definition because it doesn't disqualify a single thing.
It doesn't disqualify a single thing. Is that important though?
Well, I mean, if you're trying to make a definition for something, making a definition is distinguishing it from the whole of everything else.
Right.
Part of the reason why I didn't come with definitions for this episode was because I looked at the premise and thought this doesn't need definitions because definitions don't matter.
Oh, well, that's a mistake. Everything
Yeah.
starts at semantics and works up.
Okay, so
No,
look,
but I
I'm not
seriously feel
sure-
like for this, it doesn't matter. What do you consider a religion, and does that give somebody superior goals or not? Like it doesn't
Okay,
matter.
I consider my own personal philosophy and way of life a religion, and it's perfect. It meets all of my goals. So yes, the answer
Yeah.
would then always be yes.
So you would say yes. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Question
I think
addressed.
everyone would disagree with me though.
Yeah.
No.
doesn't matter
I'm
who
not,
picks it.
no, I'm not
Not
disagreeing.
really.
I don't know that
Yeah.
everyone would.
Useless,
But like,
I-
you know?
I
disagree.
agree. It's
I-
personal
to
and
me,
doesn't do me any good.
to me,
Well,
it
then
doesn't
exactly because
mean-
we're talking broader, right? Than just a person in one spot, right?
I think
Well,
what serves you well is good. Same thing as if it serves you well to get off of drugs through AA or anything like that. That's great for you, but it doesn't seem to do anything for anybody else.
Yeah,
but
I
if
mean,
we're-
the information value is really not that there. I mean, basically what you're telling me is that, oh, you live a happy life. Cool. I mean, yeah, good for you. But I mean, really? Cool.
Well, as I'm saying, it matters because if we leave it nebulous enough that it's just each individual person on their own, then the
yeah.
only answer you can give is I don't fucking know.
No, but listen, sir, the thing is that if you leave it nebulous enough, everybody's right.
Okay.
Which really, the information value of the conversation is zero.
Yeah, that's why semantics matter. You gotta start there.
Yeah.
No,
That's
give
why
you a
I
look.
started there.
Okay. So, oh, you got a yes, Fab, from Lyrics. Great. Yeah. Okay. So, are you there, Skeptic?
Yeah, this should be working now.
Okay, great.
Here
If
we
you
go,
want to
yeah.
jump in straight away, yeah, no problem. Go ahead, because I know you've been listening for a little while. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So look, what is the point of trying to define religion in such a sense that it appeals to a divinity or some ontological certainty? Is that the problem here?
Well, it's just we got to a point, and
Oh,
now
did
you
we? I'm sorry, I was doing other stuff and typing in chat. Well,
You're
can you
stuck in
recap?
that back again. No, well,
Can
I
you,
mean, no.
can you just recap
That,
the point for me then?
no, the recap. You know, that I told Cerberus that if you leave everything nebulous enough, everybody's right. And if everybody's right, there is zero information in the conversation. It's just, yeah, I'm right. Okay, you're right. Yeah, cool. I'm right. Yeah, cool. Yeah, let's go grab a beer. You know,
You're defining the point out of existence. There's no point there. That's the whole problem with pantheism to start with.
Yeah.
I mean, when you say divinity and pantheism, like, aren't all things divine? You know, then what does divine mean? It doesn't have a meaning anymore.
No.
Everything's divine.
I think it always doesn't have a meaning.
That's
why I specifically said to you, sir, you know, if you define, if you're a pantheist and you think everything is divine, but you ascribe to naturalism, right, then I'm excluding you from this particular group. And the reason being is because that's the atheist position. And really what we're encapsulating here about this idea of personal goals, etc., which is why I brought it back in, is the idea of theism, right, being countered. Does theism give you? Maybe I should have said that in the title, right? But theism itself doesn't, you know, again, is not quite as precise as religion in this case, because when we're talking about religion, we're talking about people's psychological states more, right? So, and I think that's what I was trying to capture.
Yeah, and,
right?
norms and habits and beliefs. Yeah.
Yeah, in that sense, yeah.
You know, Dan McClellan made a video on this where he talks about the origin of the word and how it started coming about with religion. And I think all of these older groups, they didn't consider religions. You know, we didn't have this concept of a society that looked at, oh, well, there's this belief system and that belief system. Whatever that society was, they kind of operated under that belief system without an open understanding of different people believe different things, you know? So I think religion in that sense is a relatively new term.
I guess, although, you know, like I said, just that the point about personal goals is surely a psychological question in terms of a naturalist, right? So if we're going to put it into those terms, which is basically what we've been doing, you know, then it turns out, right, that religion is the tool by which the more powerful people in the group, use to justify their position without going to just do what the fuck I say, right?
Sure, I think it's a confidence thing. I don't know if you've ever seen any of these shows like with con men, and they'll say, "I'm not a con man, I'm a confidence man." You know, that they're selling confidence is what they're selling. But that's really religion in a nutshell. What it is it's selling a sense of confidence. Oh yeah, that this is how the world works. This is how. So it gives them that confidence. And I don't mean to equate it with a con artist, but that's just a common term. That is, yeah, they're a confidence man.
I thought that was what it was short for.
Yeah, it is, and that's the way it's being made, isn't it? Yeah. It's like a confidence trick in itself. That's a con trick in itself.
Right.
But yeah. Okay, so that we got that question answered in such of why there's a delineation there. But I still agree with you that, you know, these terms are nebulous, right? And we use, and more importantly, that religious people use this term in varying ways in order to obfuscate from, you know, whether they're conning people or whether they're deeply what's the word here? Deeply convinced or convicted of the ontological truth of the statements they're making.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would argue that not a single person in this room has ever met anyone that's used the word divine that meant anything that wasn't just circular, right? It didn't contain any meaning. It's just people act like it's a property, but that property is just itself.
Yeah,
I think
maybe.
it doesn't. It doesn't.
I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure. I mean, when I was at school, like when I was 12, so we had divinity lessons because that was the term used for learning about religions.
I feel like this has a Samaritan origin. It didn't say divine, but what's the lady that stole the? She stole the characteristics. It was called we or something like that. It's spelt weird. I don't know if y'all know what I'm talking about. But
Maybe.
she stole these things from another god. I wish I was more ready for this, but anyway, it's like stealing the properties. They in the Sumerians had this ideal of to make fire. That there was this property of to make kings and all of this kind of social order structures, right? And that one goddess stole these from the other while they were drunk, right? And these were kind of characteristics of how they controlled the world. And then later, the Greeks wound up turning this into the logos. So it's like the properties that controls the universe. That's this ideal. I don't know if y'all are familiar with the ideal of logos inside of Greek thinking. But anyway, this predates logos, and this is the ideal of this divine strings that you can pull on and kind of control the world. But I think it goes back to this Samaritan ideology.
So you mean like, I guess what we call reason or thinking today?
Well, this is I think the vocabulary. This is where divinity kind of developed was from these tools. That
I see.
That these things are how the natures of gods can interact with fires, with kings, with our reading. I think that was one of the ways, I don't know how it's said, that was stolen. But anyway.
Oh, writing.
Yeah, it's a bit more complex than reason. It also has a sacred connotation into that. So it's this and that. So it's
I mean, from our view, though, as a modern people, we could look at it from a naturalistic viewpoint, right?
Oh,
Go, okay, well,
no,
hello,
no. I was just talking about the word per se,
the word,
not
the way they used it. Yeah. No, that's fine. Yeah, okay. I don't think that there's a particular problem. One of the things I dislike, right, is this switch between technical language and colloquial language, and religion falls very much into that thing. As I'd say, like how many times as atheists have you heard recently, well, you're an atheist and that's a religion, right? And I just think, well, hang on, by definition, I don't believe in God. So how can it be a religion, right?
Yeah.
I don't understand how that could, it could be a religion. And of course, what they're actually referring to is something like, well, that, you're a humanist, or, you believe in evolution or science, or scientistic, right? Another word I fucking hate, right?
Well, they see it as a cluster, right? It's not one of those things. It's that there's usually all of those things together.
It's a system of
right,
belief.
absolutely. A materialist, right, is the one that they always sort of point to. Well, they think, oh, you're a materialist and of like the 18th century type. Now, how does that make sense? Because clearly maths isn't material, or dreams and hopes aren't material, or you know what I mean?
I know I'm beating a dead horse here because I've said it before, and I will not go into that. But I think that the major part of the confusion when we have this conversation is because of the language that we're using. And by language, I mean English. It's super confusing when we deal with that stuff.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't think it's the English itself. It's this idea of technical and
it totally fucking is. Man.
Well, look, I can agree with you, right? Like we were speaking earlier today with a Greek guy who calls himself Achilles, right? And he said anthropological, right, means X, Y, Z. It just means about humans, right? Whereas in the scientific definition, it means something different to that. It's about studying things about humans, but not the humans themselves. It's not biology. There's a
No,
difference
it's not.
between the two things.
Yeah.
Right. But for him, it means biology.
Yeah.
Right. Why? Because he's using the Greek word, right?
Yeah.
Which we derive anthropological from. Okay. And that's the problem because, we're using it as a technical scientific language. That's
Yeah,
why
but
we have the Greek word,
that
right?
yeah, but this is what I meant. It's not only English really confusing, but also the context is really confusing. I mean, I will again, I'm not going to that because I know it's kind of a joke right now. But the word epistemology. Every time I hear the word epistemology, I have to kill a kitten because it doesn't mean what you think it means.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Well, and it's super confusing. I mean,
I hate the word ontology. I'm okay with epistemology if it's used in the right context, but people throw around ontology like crazy.
No, yeah, okay. So ontology is again, it might mean what they think, but they use it like they're swinging their dick. The word epistemology specifically, it doesn't mean what it's used for. What the word which that you guys should really use is gnoseology, because epistemology is the is basically philosophy of science.
Epistemology.
This is what it means.
Right.
Episteme is the certain science. So what you really should be using is gnoseology, the science of knowledge.
Yeah.
So again,
I see.
it's mental.
Yeah, I mean that's strange though. Let me just say this quick, Scary. That's quite strange though, because those are Latin words. So you're right.
Greek.
When you said it's English, well, they come from Greek originally, but
the Greek words. Yeah.
Well, no, because not strictly, right?
Well, episteme is Greek.
Yeah. Okay, that is right. But what does that mean? Or pistos, what does that mean in Greek?
No,
that has a different meaning, right?
Well, yeah, in Greek it actually means faith, if I'm not mistaken.
No. Episteme is the science which is certain. So mathematics, that kind of stuff. Right. So epistemology would be philosophy of science.
Look, I'm not going to disagree with what you're saying.
I am, and I'll tell you why.
I'll
tell you why, because the word epistemology was being used way before Karl Popper, and Karl Popper kind of solidified this ideal of what's the methodology, what's the epistemology that we should use to determine what reality is.
No, I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you, and you're right. What I'm saying is that if you come in Italy or in Germany and whatever, and you want to talk about epistemologia, that would be the science, the philosophy of science. It would not be what Popper meant. So, and this is the confusion,
Yeah,
so,
okay.
I thought
the Greek word for science. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, no. If I drop out, it's because my battery is going off. So yeah.
Oh, I can tell you what the confusion is. In Greek, episteme, which is where we get it from, means knowledge, and in Latin, the root word for science also means knowledge. They mean the exact same thing. It's just they're being used in different contexts because he's Italian.
And I was thinking pithos.
But that's why I said the way we in English use the Latin is for biology and not for physics, right? So that's where the Popper thing comes in, right? Because he could have gone either way with it. He could have gone either way.
Yeah, and it was the wrong way.
Use this scientific method. Now, as far as I'm aware, science itself in Latin has a different word, right? Scienza or something.
But that's the thing. It's all Popper's fault because he went the wrong way, and I can tell you that it's a fucking mess for any Italian, French, Spanish, German, for everybody.
I get you.
It's a fucking mess.
I don't dispute that, which is why I'm saying the problem really is not the language. It's the technical versus colloquial, right?
Yeah,
Because all of
yeah, but
these
it's
people are hearing a colloquial term, right? And going, oh, look, hang on a minute, this is just English speakers, right, alone.
well, yeah, but I
And
mean,
they're
so there is.
confusing the two things. So when it's a technical language, like when we use the Latin derivation, when we use the Greek derivations, we're talking about sciences generally. And when we're
Well,
talking, which is why
yeah.
Popper used that, right? And when we're using the Latin, we're generally talking about, I don't know, things like, you know, as I say, biology or some chemistry, right?
I think it's a little bit more complicated than that, you know, because again, you know, for example, in places like Germany, and you know, France, Italy, Spain, stuff like that, the etymology of the word is way more important than what the etymology is in English. You know,
for sure.
you're way more lazy with words, while
Yes.
here etymology is super important. So,
Yes.
and this is where, you know. So that would be one aspect.
Our language is a lot younger, right? The English language is not very old.
The other aspect is that there are certain concepts which are really, really, really hard to you know, to say in English, like the old concept of being. I mean, we could talk about it for hours, and it would take me hours in order for me to really make you understand what essere and being means. You know, it's super complicated.
Yeah, no, I think Christopher Hitchens talked about that a little bit. That particular.
Yeah, the
point as well.
Tetragrammaton is kind of caught up on that whole thing. Like the whole Yahweh thing started from am, from something of an am problem or an am statement.
Well,
yeah.
So
before you go, Fabio, you must love it now. The word television is being replaced in the English language. Then.
With what?
Well, because monitor, right? Because television is, of course, famously both a derivative of Latin and Greek together.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, go ahead, Al.
I still call it television.
I forgot what I was going to say. No worries.
Okay.
Was it about the Tetragrammaton or Yahweh?
No, it's probably something about the verb to be.
Yeah.
But like, it's the verb to be.
Yeah, but it's not a verb. You know, it's
right.
I mean, it's yeah.
Well, it's a lot of verbs.
Wait, are you telling me you don't be? I be all the time.
In Spanish, there's two verbs for to be. Which I mean, and then of course conjugate them further. But yeah, like there's.
No, but it's the issue is that in Latin language and even in German, to be is not only a verb.
Right.
It's also a noun.
Right.
So when I'm talking about being myself, you know, or fulfilling my being, I'm talking about fulfilling my essence.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
I be being all the time.
Yeah, but I mean, it's even more nuanced than that. It's really, I mean, again, it's really hard to explain in English. It really takes an effort, but yeah.
Well, and also like going back to this whole idea of religion and this idea of like the Abrahamic religions being built on the books of Moses that were written in ancient Hebrew, which doesn't have a verb for to be, which like if you want to go back to like Genesis, try and like explain Genesis 1:1 without the verb to be, right?
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah. It's so we know that it has some changes in translation just literally from the first verse. That's
yeah. Well, in the beginning, you mean?
In the beginning, there was.
Right. Look, and I hate I brought Dan McClellan up twice here, but if y'all don't subscribe to Dan McClellan, y'all are missing a lot here. But he talks about the word vocabulary that was used there. Is the beginning isn't like an open statement; it's like a set. And I'm sorry, I don't remember the Hebrew word for it, but it's not just an open ended in the beginning. It's in the beginning of this set structure. You know,
like at the start of.
Yeah, and don't let me start off the way you use literally. I mean, I'm not even going.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm literally not going to start doing that to you. Fabio.
Yes. Yes.
I think we went over that last week, but
Yeah, we did. It's one of his bugbears. You know, it's literally the only thing he gets excited about.
But yeah,
fuck off.
I had
It's
a
like
friend who was a-
it's like Christopher and his lemon.
I
He's-
years ago,
I'm,
I
I'm
asked
literally like Christopher's lemon. Yeah.
No?
Go ahead. They're quiet. They're gonna let you talk
Oh.
now.
It's not really very important or relevant at all, but I was going to say that years ago I had a friend who was a native Hebrew speaker, and I asked her like, "What is it? What does it say?" It's like in English we say there was light, and she like looked at me and she was like, "Light," and then she just like snapped her fingers and like made a motion with her hands.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
I was
Why
like,
is
okay.
Dave so quiet in here, man?
She's like, "You don't have a word for it in English." I was like, "Okay, yeah, that makes sense."
Which is amazing considering English is the combination of 5 languages or 5 or 6 languages.
Yeah, but the
Yeah.
KJV,
7, right?
the
There's 7
KJV
primary
is the KJV is from God in English for all the Americans.
Yeah,
right.
but some of that is Hebrew being a dead non-used language for centuries, and the
Yeah,
Old Testament being cobbled together over 500 years.
Listen,
Well, and you say that it is for Americans, but like my understanding is, and people feel free to correct me if I'm wrong about this, but like the version of the Bible that is used in Latin America, the Spanish version, is translated from the English King James version.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, they spoke Latin, right? They used Latin on a
That's-
regular basis.
If that's
so-
true, that's absolutely ridiculous.
if you guys want to talk shit about the King James, we have a Brit over here, so yeah, you can address him specifically.
Well, like I know a bit about the formation. I mean, the main text that was used was the Latin version. What did they call it? The Latin Vulgate or something like that.
The Texas Receptus group, but yeah, the
Okay,
Vulgate was very influential. I'll be right back.
That was the main one. So, and then they ran out of money before they finished it, so they just finished it off with the Tinsdale Bible.
A city of fault, so yeah.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, right, is that what's come to light is the books that were written by the people who were translating the Bible. Not all of them, but one particular book with one section of the King James has come to light, right?
Yeah.
And it talks. He says he writes out in this particular book why he's translating particular passages the way he's doing it.
Yeah.
And so it's quite interesting to hear the thought process of the person actually doing the translation for the King James Bible, right, or at least a particular section of it. And apparently they all did it. They all had to write copious notes about why they were translating, what they were translating, and why they, to justify to the king. Exactly. That's why it took so long to do.
Yeah, I actually have a book called The Translators Revive by Alexander McClure, and if any of y'all know anything about it, he is an absolute King James loyalist. He's on the knob pretty hard on KJV. Thinks that it's better than anything. This is a very old book, but he definitely gets into a lot of the notes and stuff that the different ones wrote on it.
It's quite a recent find. I think it only came to light in the 80s, late 80s. This particular book was found in someone's collection.
We've covered Brad, and Simos knows all about Brad, and that he's very big on if you don't take it the way he's reading it out of the KJV, you're all lost, you're all heretics, and he's bad mouthing his peers more than anyone.
Anyway, the reason I bring that up was because they were doing exactly what Fabio was saying. Look, these languages, the way they're translated, they don't often have words for straight translation. So the literal translation is no good. So they basically take the spirit of what was said in the language and then translate that into English, rather than actually translating the actual words themselves.
And that's been in the news. There's a lot of videos and documentaries that even like, your big companies and your restaurants and everything, when they go into other countries, they have to change the names of things because something here on the menu
Yes.
as innocent as a hot dog could mean, take out your whole family or whatever in another language. So they have to be real careful about their wording.
It's
Yeah.
interesting to me companies that don't understand that, and often sometimes like language learning companies. There was an instance with Duolingo when they first came out with like their Chinese language learning tree, where one of the phrases that they were teaching people in Chinese was, "I brought this watch as a gift." Which, if you know anything about Chinese culture, is like you do not give somebody a timepiece as a gift. Like that is absolutely like not a thing that you do. You're basically telling that person that you want them to die, and like it went into production that there were multiple thousands of people who like got this prompt that, oh, this is a sentence that we're going to teach you in Chinese, and like
That's amazing.
nobody caught it for like a while.
Yeah.
Yeah,
all the people that have gotten tattoos in another language, and it turns out it doesn't say what they thought
Spelled
it
or
said.
something different, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, look good though. But like, there's also the another side to it, of course, because in the 70s, there were translations of the Quran which were translated into English to be taught in the Quranic schools, which were set up in the early 70s. And it turns out much later that when these Qurans were revisited, shall we say, by scholars in this country, it turns out that it was a lot of mistranslation, and what was mistranslated were the theological points of Wahhabism. Right? So they literally had in these Quranic schools one of the most extreme versions of Islam being taught to kids, right? So, and it had lots of stuff, like it had all of the Jewish anti-Semitic stuff in it, and it had all of the, whatever else, like all of the
You gotta
anti.
stick to your origins.
Yeah, it's nasty stuff. It's really nasty stuff. But of course, nobody could read it in this country, right? So they just took it as being a proper translation, and of course it was something by the Saudis, because it was a Saudi Bible. They were all paid for. The Quran was all paid for. Its translations by the Saudis, and the school set up by the Saudis, and it was a Wahhabi kind of con trick to try and spread Wahhabism to the. When they say, "Oh, we have problems with Islamic terrorism," yeah, I tell you, it's been 50 years now. They've been teaching that shit in the schools.
Yeah,
Scary stuff. Anyway, talk about life goals. Oh my goodness.
Oh boy.
And that's the other side of it, right? That's why we need to be especially careful about the indoctrination of kids.
Amen.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let's just go around the room and finish up with that. Hopefully, Seb will be back soon. Last in, Skeptic, would you like to just say what you thought about the topic in general, or anything at all, or show, or anything you like?
I come in a little late. I don't know what all was started there. Sorry, I did come in a little bit late, but
That's fine.
Hey, I've started watching a few of your videos. I saw you over there on Dave's channel, and then I started watching a few of them. Great topics, everything that I've seen. But didn't have anything to add really.
Okay.
Yeah, wait. I mean, wait until you find the F1 videos.
Yeah, there's only about 600 of those.
Yeah.
Wait. What is it now?
Formula One. Formula One car
Formula
racing.
One videos. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's not really my jam.
Yeah.
Well,
It's not mine either, but I stop by and I learn a little bit, and so.
Thank you
Also,
so
like
much,
the
Dave.
guys are just really funny, and I just get a kick out of watching it. I'm not a car person whatsoever, but like Dave, I've learned a fair amount just by watching them because it's entertaining and humorous.
Everybody's
I
got their
mean-
little hobbies.
you know what
Indeed.
downforce means, right? So there you go.
I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
I do.
Hey.
Thanks to you guys.
That's something I just learned about birds, that you don't need fully formed wings to have the downforce to make you a better runner. So a bird can have an advantage just by flapping its arms without having fully developed wings, producing downforce. So praise physics.
There you go. There you go. Or you can do it the true empiricism way and say that birds fly because they fart.
Yeah.
That's a real thing as well.
When I was a kid, I convinced my little brother. I don't even remember exactly like the statistics of it, but he like quoted back like exact numbers that I had like quoted to him as a child. That like if X amount of people like stuck their ass off of like a F-150 bed of a truck and farted all at the same time, like how far forward it would move.
I don't know if I told you before, Simos, but when I worked in the garage, my boss did road racing. So we went and saw him race and everything. He drove an MG Sprite, tiny little 4-cylinder in that thing, and it produced, I don't know how many horsepower, but it was incredibly loud when he fired that thing up.
Okay,
So
he took the muffler off it, yeah.
Yeah, I've heard. You have to change your baffles for certain different tracks and everything. So I learned a little bit hanging out with the boss. So.
About 100 HP, I think.
Yeah,
but it's amazing. Okay. It's amazing the horsepower they can pull out of a 4-cylinder. It really is.
Oh yeah, I mean, like if we tell you the Formula One stats, right?
Yeah.
You'll be mind blown, right? So it's their 1.6 liter, 6-cylinder engines, I think, and they produce in the region of 700 to 800 brake horsepower.
I mean, if you really want to impress the guy, you should talk about in the BMW engines in the turbo era. 4-cylinder, 1.5 liter, something in the region of 1,200 horsepower.
Woo. That'll put you back in the seat.
1.5 liter. Okay.
Yeah.
So, that's smaller than I don't know what size is that? That's a third the size of an F50, F-150 probably.
Yeah.
Third smaller. That's crazy. Okay, Elle, over to you. Do you want to finish up and just say whatever you need to?
Yeah, I think, like I said before, I don't think that religion gives you superior personal goals, but in some cases, it might give people a superior means of communicating those goals to a larger group of people and converting them to their own personal goals. That's all I got.
Thank you very much. Seb, over to you.
No, I mean, I think I said all the nitpicky stuff I had to say already. So
thank you very much for nitpicking. I do appreciate that because it keeps the topic going, and that's quite useful, to say the least, from my perspective. Plus, it makes us re-examine the topic, and that's always useful for everybody to do because that keeps people skeptical, I think. So thank you.
I got one thing I could say.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
There is no such thing as a soft atheist. There you go. Yeah.
Soft atheist. Okay. Yeah, them's fighting words there.
Yeah.
What are you, some kind of Steve McCrae clone? Okay, I'm joking. Over to you, Dave.
I would agree with Ella that I don't see a superior personal goals. I think anybody can have personal goals. I don't think you need religion for it. Whatever your goals are, if they're fulfilling for you, as we said about Eastern religions, that's good enough.
Okay, Fabio.
Yep, I think he died.
Too late.
Yeah, he died. Oh my word! I should have gone first for Fabio.
Yeah,
you should have.
Okay, hopefully he'll be back. If not, never mind, kind of thing. I'm sure he'd say something like, "Where all you English speakers know absolutely nothing." Go ahead.
He's in the chat. Maybe his microphone or something died.
Oh, okay, yeah, maybe. It says you will need to reconnect your microphone or cam before you can be added to the stream, Fabio. Just
he
so
says battery's dead.
Ah. Yeah. Okay. So he's probably going to blame God for the battery being dead. So that's understandable. Is he in private chat? Is he?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's in the
So we're
studio
battery
chat.
dead. Okay. Well, now I can straw man him. We will be on. He would probably say we'll be on in 2 weeks' time to do the Dutch Grand Prix. So we can all go Dutch in 2 weeks' time, which is very nice. Thank you very much for that, Fabio. And I'll just finish off to say, if you're not very good at decision making, then it can be a good idea to get religion. Certainly, if you're David Wood, because that can give you personal goals, which maybe are achievable. If you're good at identifying and self-analyzing, then you're probably better off trying to devise your own personal goals, because that way they'll be more tailored to your life, which, let's face it, is more likely to give you satisfaction in the long run. And with that, I'll say thank you to everybody that's been on. I won't repeat all the names. It was good to see you all. Thank you, Tilting Windmill. I'm so glad you're a mod now. That really makes me happy. Thank you, Jackie, for being here. And he said TV died. Skeptic. Good one. And always a pleasure to see you, John. If you ever want to join, we'd be more than welcome. We'd love you to come in and comment. And with that, I will leave it out. There's loads of links in the chat. Please go and check them out. And we'll see you all next week for another State of the Onion, in which case, hopefully, we'll have it cooked by the end of the show. Thank you very much.